Now let's do a very fast review of what we've learned so far. We don't have to rush, because in meditation, we have to take it very slowly so that we learn it gradually. And for those who haven't been here for a long time, probably you need to know what we're talking about. So let's do a fast and quick review. So what's meditation? How to meditate? What's meditation? Meditation is from two perspectives. Stabilization, which is calming down the mind. When the mind is calm, the body is relaxed. Nobody can relax the body without calming down the mind. So calm the mind, relax the body. So meditation, the first part is calming or stabilization, a mental stabilization. And in the Sanskrit language is samatha. Samatha is the method. You use the method of samatha, and the effect is samadhi. Samadhi is the peacefulness so attained. So samatha and then introspection. In the Sanskrit language is vipassana. And some people use a different translation. Samatha is translated into concentration. But we would like to use stabilization rather. Concentration, it seems to be that you force certain thing to concentrate. Stabilization comes gradually. So calming down the mind comes gradually, naturally, and concentration seems to be an induced method. So we use stabilization. Introspection, some people use contemplation. But introspection gives the idea of not just contemplation, is to reflect inside, so introspection. And just to review very quickly, mental calming or stabilization is the initial method through which one is able to suppress emotions. So we have emotions, then you have to use calming down. You have to calm down, let go, so that you can get rid of your emotions. And then mental introspection is the primary essential through which one is able to eliminate delusions or to eliminate emotions. Calming down is just to calm down. You haven't eliminated the emotions. So if we consider emotions as someone who breaks in, a burglar, someone who breaks in, stabilization is tie up the guy who breaks in, and introspection, vipassana, is to submit the guy to the police entirely. So elimination of the emotions. And then calming is the provision with which one nurtures the consciousness. You nurture your consciousness towards wisdom. That's calming. And introspection is the technique which stimulates the development of spiritual understanding. So your spiritual understanding depends on introspection. We already have explained that. Right now we're only doing a quick, fast review. You already have heard about that, so it's just a regurgitation. Calming is the supreme cause for the dhyana absorption. For meditative absorption. And introspection is the origin of wisdom. So no one can attain wisdom without doing both stabilization and introspection. So these are the reasons why we are doing calming, why we're doing introspecting. We can carry on. So meditation, let's break it down into the method of it. Stabilization, it's counting, following, and calming, or stabilization. Introspection is introspection, returning or turning, and purification. These are the 6 doors, we call it, the 6 gates to samatha and vipassana. And let's just do a fast review. What is counting? What do we mean by counting? When you're meditating, we say, okay, the 3 A's of meditation. What are the 3 A's of meditation that we talked about this morning? Alan talked about the 3 A's of meditation. A stands for adjustment. Adjustment to the body, adjustment to the breath, and adjustment to the mind. So, counting. What is counting? We have to cultivate counting, and then in the process of cultivating counting, we what? We realize the effects of counting. So one part is cultivation, is doing it, and realization is what we attain in doing it. A cultivation brings to realization. Like cultivation is that you germinate the seeds, and then you get the fruits. The seeds dissemination is the cultivation, and the final fruition of the trees, getting the fruits, is the realization. So what is counting? Counting, the practitioner regulates. When we're doing meditation, the practitioner or the one who practices meditation regulates and harmonizes the breath. We follow the breath in and out so that it is neither too rough nor too subtle. So you count it by saying, okay, in when the breath comes in, I count 1. I go out, I don't count. Comes in 2, go out, I don't count it. 3, 4, 5, until 10. Then you go back to 10, to go back to 1 again. So you are counting unhurriedly, without rushing through it. Unhurriedly, subtly and slowly counting from 1 to 10. That's counting. You either count the in-breath or you count the out-breath. But most people count the in-breath. When it comes in, naturally, you don't force the breath. You don't try to make it longer or shorter. It just comes in naturally. Then you count 1. It goes out, you don't count it. Comes in 2, then you count it. Or you count the out-breath, but most people count the in-breath. You don't count both. You don't count 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't count that because it will be too fast for you. So you're counting only either the in-breath or the out-breath. But usually we count the in-breath, we count from 1 to 10. And then again to 1 to 10, 1 to 10, 1 to 10. Why don't we count it to 11, 12, 13, 14, 15? Because our breath, our counting usually goes away. As we always compare, it's like we have a monkey molecule stuck inside our nostril. That's how we visualize. And when we are counting, the monkey is sitting in here, and the monkey is all over the place. After you count to 5, the monkey goes away. You don't realize the monkey is going away. The monkey goes away to think about the past. The monkey goes away to worry about the future. The monkey goes away because there's a car honking outside, and you heard honk, boot, 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 honking. And the monkey goes all over the place. And you don't want that to happen. When the monkey lost 5 and 6, I want to pull back the monkey and stay put in here. Okay, you count again. Oh, I forgot where I count because the monkey goes away. The thought of monkey goes away. Then I start from 1 again. 1, 2, up to the count to 9. The monkey goes away because what? Somebody was coughing in here. I heard the coughing and I lost my count. Then you put it back and you count it again. So always from 1 to 10, from 1 to 10, and from 1 to 10. One focuses the mind on the counting and does not follow it to wander off or become scattered. You only have a counting thought. That's how we cultivate it. Is it that simple? It sounds very simple. Counting sounds very simple, but it becomes very difficult because you lose your count. And sometimes when you're counting and counting and counting, the monkey goes to sleep. You dozed off, you lose your count. So can you make your counting monkey staying put so that you can gain stabilization. You can gain a little bit of control in your thought. You know our problems? We cannot control ourselves. That's why emotions comes up. Depressions, jealousy, hatred, fear, anxiety, all comes up because you don't know they come up. Be the master of your own breath. Why do we use our breath and not a pool of water and not a candle flame? Because our breath is the most akin to you. It's the closest to you. It's as close to you as your thought. What is the closest to you? Mom and dad? Closest to you, your money, your pocket money? What is closest to you? Nothing is the closest to you than your breath. So why do you still want to use a candle flame? Your breath. Your breath is the most vital activity inside of you. That's why you use your breath, okay? Then once you count and count and count, and you train yourself, you train your monkey that your monkey stay put, always 1 to 10, 1 to 10, 1 to 10, for quite a while. For 5 minutes, and then for 10 minutes, for 15 minutes, and then for half an hour. Oh, you're on your way. You're on your way to realization of all the benefits in counting. If you become successful, what do? You know your counting is well done. What happened when your counting is well done? When your counting is well done, you have the cultivation of subtle breathing. When your breathing makes no sound, when your breathing is smooth, when your breathing is long, and your breathing is deep with no obstruction, like when you have in the cold, when you have influenza, you got plucked up nose, you cannot count. So you're counting when you know that your breath is silent. You know your breath is not silent, you know. If you cannot feel your breath, if the breath is so silent that you cannot even feel it, people say, you're going to live long. Animals who have short breath, sudden breath, they don't live too long. A dog, only 16 years, 15 years, the dog will die. Horse. All those animals who have short breath, abrupt breath, they don't live that long. A turtle lives very long, hundreds of years. You can't even, it's breathing very silently, very subtle, very smooth, deep and long. Okay? So your breath, if you do the counting well, it will become smooth, silent, deep with no obstruction. Then you know you're cultivating the benefits of a good breath. The exhalation and the inhalation are of extended duration, such that they are as if the duration of the breath is as if, is my breath still there? I can't feel it. I can't even feel my breath. It is so subtle, so silent, so fine, so deep, and so long that I can't even feel my breath. But it is there. Then you know that you're successful in your counting. The mind has less and less scattering thought. Why? Because you've been concentrating on the counting. You're feeling content and peaceful. But it's very difficult to come to that part yet. So how do I know that I'm doing fine? How do I know that where do I go from here? I'm counting my breath, but where do I go from counting? When you know that your breath is deep, long, subtle, and silent, as if it's not there, you have achieved the realization of counting. And what do? Then you don't do counting anymore. You are going to the next, which is following. When counting is well done, the mind is content with peacefulness, the practitioner, the meditator, feels that counting is not fine enough. I don't want to be disturbed by the counting. It's too coarse. I want something more subtle. He does not want to bother counting anymore. As the breath disappears. If the breath disappears, I'm counting what? I can't even feel my breath. What am I counting? I'm not counting. To him, counting is an attachment. He wants to let go of counting. Because counting is a nuisance. Because your thought is so fine, so deep, and so peaceful, so quiet that even counting is a nuisance. It's an attachment. He's going to a higher level of in and out breath meditation. He just wants to what? To follow the breath. He just wants to follow it. He does not want to count. He just wants to follow it. So we call it the cultivation of following. And then as he cultivates more and more experience, building up for a long time, he comes to realize the benefit of following. And how is he following the breath? The breath comes in, it goes through, the breath comes in, the air is cool, it goes through my nostril, it goes through my throat, it goes to my throat, and then it goes to my lung, and then it permeates into all my organs, and then it goes into my belly button, and then, I don't know, suddenly I lose track of it, but then it comes back again, and then it goes out through my nostril. But somehow it must have gone somewhere. I couldn't follow it anymore because when it goes to my belly button, my chakra, they call it, the ocean of breath. It goes through to my chakra 3 inches underneath my belly, and then I can still feel it, and then where is it going? The next fraction of a second, I realize it coming up to my nostril again, it goes out. It must have gone through my organs, right? It must have gone through my lung, my blood, my circulation. It has to be somewhere, right? So you're trying to follow it, and follow it as much as possible. So you're following your subtle breath. How long would that take you to go to following? It depends on how much have you done in your counting. Some people take 10 years to be successful in counting. Some people take 10 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Some people, not even in your lifetime. So, one becomes aware of the breath as now long, as now short, because you know, oh, how come my breath, I'm following it, now I know my breath is long and subtle and deep. And then another day when I'm doing meditation, I found out that my breath is not that long, it's short. I have a cold, so I have an obstruction. You just follow it. And then you realize that now it's permeating my body and now it's going out again. The mind and the breath are in a state of what? The mind and the breath, or the thought and the breath, are in a state of what? Mutual interdependence. Because you follow your breath, your thought follows the breath, your thought depends on the breath movement, and the breath follows the thought. So what does that mean? That means the most important activity inside your body, that is to say, the breath and your thought, are relating to each other. They're independent, but then they're related too. The mind and the breath has become fine and subtle. Your thought becomes very subtle. Your thought becomes very peaceful now, and your thought becomes still, following your breath. Next, the meditator, the practitioner, becomes aware that following makes me feel very peaceful, makes me feel very calming and relaxed and peaceful. I don't have any emotion anymore because I only have my counting, I only have my following. I'm in control. I'm the controller. I'm the controller of my breath. You're an accountant, you're the controller of all your books in the company, but now you are the controller of your breath. And the mind say, following is good. It makes me feel very relaxed, very peaceful, very calm. Then as you go following and following and following, and then you suddenly find that following is an attachment. It is so subtle and so fine that following is only a course activity. Even following, oh, I don't want to follow, it's an attachment. At this time, I want to get rid of following, because why should I attach to following? At the very beginning, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when you started counting, what did you follow? You follow your emotions. You follow your anxiety, your fear, your hatred, your greediness, your jealousy. And now, you're not following that anymore. You're following only your breath. You're following only your thought. And you know what you're thinking. Why do people commit crime? They don't know what they're thinking. When they get angry, they just fight. When they get angry, they just quarrel. When they get angry, they don't feel happy. Why do people feel depressed? Because he just feels depressed. And people say, oh, are you suffering from depression? Just let go of it. Just let go of it. And then, how do I let go of it? It's easier to say let go. I cannot let go. If you tell me to let go and I can let go, there will be no one suffering from depression, because I cannot let go. It just dominates me. And the counting and the following is the training yourself to let go. You can't just let go. You have to find an object of concentration to train yourself to let go, right? But if you do counting and following, you can easily let go, because you're following your thought, you're following your breath, your breathing activity. At this time, returning to following, you say that I already relinquished my counting and get to following. Now I'm so subtle, I'm so peaceful, I'm so tranquil that even following the breath, I want to relinquish that. I want to give up, relinquish, even following. But then I should talk a little bit about following before going really into stabilization. When the practitioner relinquishes counting and relies single-mindedly on following the in and out breath, he is already free from distraction and scatteredness of his focus. Is already free from distraction. He's always, he has a very good focus already. And in between, in between following and stabilization, something happened in there. You already finished counting, you already finished following, but before you get into stabilization, something happened in there that makes you feel that my mind is calming, my mind is stabilizing. The Buddha said there are 16 feelings in between following and stabilization. In other words, there's 16 feelings that if you feel that, you're getting into stabilization spontaneously and naturally. What are these 16? We call it the 16 superior phenomena of practicing following. So you will feel the 16 superior phenomena inside of you when you're practicing following and going into stabilization. You just feel it. How long do you feel it? Maybe 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes, maybe half an hour, maybe 1 hour, maybe that's just 1 second. What are these? The first feeling is awareness that the breath is coming in. Some people don't even aware the breath coming in. Are you always paying attention to your breath? You just breathe. Why do I have to worry about my breath? Actually, our breath is the most important activity. Some people say, I have a body. This body is an entity. My body is an entity. My body exists. My body is very important. I have a self. This is self, self, self. But the Buddha said, your body is not an entity. Your body is only an activity. You know the difference between entity and activity? An entity has an existence, an inherent existence. But activity only happens and go. You only have an activity. We don't have an entity. I already explained that. That's the reason why you don't have a self. We are non-self. We don't have an identity, but we think we are. We are living in a delusion of a dream. We're living in a dream of existence, and we don't even know about it. That's what the Buddha said. We're living in a dream of existence. We don't even know about it. You think you exist. Because you think, I think, therefore I am. Have you ever heard of that? I think, therefore I am. Who said that? It's Descartes who said that. I think, therefore I am, but actually, I think and I'm not, and I'm not what I am. I think, but I'm not what I am because I don't have an identity. I live in a dream existence. All right, getting back to the 16 feelings. The first is awareness, the breath is coming in. The second is awareness, the breath is going out. The third is awareness that the breath is long or short. When the breath comes in, you say, oh, this is a long breath. This is a short breath. Awareness, the breath permeates the body. Now the breath goes through my lung and it's very peaceful. I feel my breath. And some people's breath is very short, you know. When it gets to here, they can't feel it anymore. And the breath must be long, but some people's breath is very short. And then the fifth is relinquishing all physical actions. When you calm the breath, you release the body fabrication. You know what I mean? If you're meditating, when you're meditating, some people do what? They're shaking, they're moving, they're doing this, they feel itchy here, they feel painful here, they feel numb here. That's body fabrications. After some people, after 10 minutes, they feel the numbness inside the legs. And they struggle, and they struggle. Some people after half an hour, I can see it. Some people after half an hour, they start to move. Actually, they feel very numb in their feet, but they pretend it. Because they think that it's losing face if they lower down their legs. That's body fabrications. When you are really in your focus, you don't have the numbness. You don't have body fabrications anymore. Number 6 is mental experience of joy. You feel very joyful. Number 7 is the mental experience of bliss. Joy is more or less like physical. When you don't have any body fabrications, you have the joy. But bliss is somewhat more mental. And when you have the joy, number 8 is the experiencing of all mental fabrications. We have body fabrication, the shaking and numbness and painful. And then we also have mental fabrication. You think about something else. Mental fabrication, you have all kinds of thoughts. Yesterday's thoughts, tomorrow's thoughts, thinking about tomorrow, thinking about now, thinking about the guy who's next to you, meditating. So you have also mental fabrications. But when you are really in meditation, you realize those visualizations. When you're meditating, all of a sudden you have mental fabrication. I thought about yesterday while I was attending a lecture. I was listening to this guy, and this guy talked about the economy. I disagree with him. Or this guy talked about biology. I disagree with him. Yesterday I was driving on the road and I was stopped by a police, and that cop was really bad and I don't like him. Oh, are these thoughts coming up to you? Those are mental fabrications. And then after quite a while of mental fabrications, they, oh, I'm sitting in here, I should be thinking of something else, I'll come back again. But you still have the mental fabrications that are not under your control because you're not trained to have the focus. You're training yourself now, but you haven't been well enough to have the focus. Number 9 is the mental production of joy. all of a sudden joy comes up in you. Number 10, the mental development of concentration. You have to focus. Number 11, the mental generation of liberation. You feel that you are liberated. You feel that you are so joyful, so blissful, that you are emancipated from the bondage of yourself, from the bondage of the universe, from the bondage of your family, from the bondage of your job, from the bondage of your study, from the bondage of your emotion. All of a sudden you feel free. You feel you're liberated. Are we liberated now? Certainly no one is liberated. We're not liberated from the ocean of life and death. You're going to die after 100 years, not even 100 years. If you're 70 years old now, you'll die after 30 years. As I always mention, I don't want to scare you. In 50 years, people who attend it now, a high percentage will disappear, including me. Nothing is permanent. Why are you always looking for permanence? Why do you think that you have a self? Why do you think that I want to get rich? I want to buy a solid house, no matter what. I was traveling in economy, and my friends are traveling in an executive business class, and I wanted to struggle up to so that I get the business class. And when you're in business class, you say, some people were traveling in first class. I want to be first class. After 20 years, you make a lot of money, you say, I don't want to be first class. Some of my friends have a private jet. I want to buy a jet plane. Your insatiable desires will drive you crazy. It also depends on how you make that kind of money. And okay, 11, the mental generation of liberation. 12, the contemplation of impermanence. All of a sudden, the concept, the truth of impermanence really is residing in you, that you feel it is impermanent. Right now, everybody knows the world is impermanent. You only know impermanence in a language, in words. In words. I read a lot of books, I saw a lot of video, and all these people on video, they say impermanent, impermanent, impermanent. All these books talk about impermanence. I know it's impermanence, but you haven't realized it. You only know the language. You haven't really know the truth of impermanence, the essence of impermanence, the inherent truth of it. Because when you know the inherent truth, that truth will be in your mind so much that you will go through a purification. Most people think that by knowing the meaning of impermanence, then you know impermanence. You only know the meaning, the outward meaning. You haven't come to a realization. You haven't come to an enlightenment of impermanence. You know what I mean? So we always talk about nirvana, Buddha. We talk about Buddha. Have we come to enlightenment of Buddhahood? No. We only talk about Victoria. We haven't. Every day you talk about Victoria, but you never traveled to Horseshoe Bay, and you never took the schedule. You never drive there. You never crossed the ferry. You only talk about it. I know Victoria, but have never been there. Only by arriving on the shore of Victoria are you at Victoria. Not just talking about it in a book, in words, in a chat, in a conversation. Okay, 14, the contemplation of abandonment of desires. By then, you have this tranquility, peacefulness, and joy in you that all your desires dissolved. Your desires for fame, reputation, needless to say, sexual relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever you say it. All those things suddenly, they're not important anymore. They dissolved. And all of a sudden you have a dispassion, not involved with the passion of greediness, hatred, ignorance, love, all that. And then you also have the introspection of abandonment of desire, the cessation of desires, the contemplation of renunciation. And you really feel that, there is a complete change in you internally. And these are the 16th contemplation. And when you feel that, how long? Sometimes 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Or to some people could be, on that particular day you're doing meditation, you're so much in your enlightened spirituality that the whole day you feel blissful. Then nothing is interesting to you anymore. You are in that spiritual, I don't know how you call it, you are in that spirituality where it's beyond description. Like what William Blake said in his poem, to see a world in a grain of sand, to see a heaven in a wildflower. Try to get that from that poem from William Blake, B-L-A-K-E, William Blake, very famous poem about enlightenment. All right. So stabilization. So what is stabilization? While counting or following with single-pointedness, the meditator becomes aware of the body and the mind seeming to vanish entirely, entering into a meditative absorption. The body and the mind does not exist anymore. He gains realization of an empty and still absorption through which he becomes aware of the body and mind as what? As tranquil, secure, and blissful. Nothing whatsoever is taken as an objective condition or is born in mind, as it is so controlled that it becomes focused in stillness, bringing all recollection, rumination, and expectation to a standstill. All your worries, your emotion, your fear, your jealousy, your hatred, all of a sudden comes to a halt. This is what we call what? Samadhi. This is what we call samadhi. All the recollection, all the worries, all the fear, the anxiety, everything, your expectation, actually all rumination of the mind or think about suddenly come to a peaceful standstill. This is samadhi. But then samadhi is only dealing with stabilization, calming down the mind. It's not enough. It's only counting, following, and achieving stabilization. What happened when the practitioner gains samadhi? He gradually feels that the samadhi is devoid of any skillful means related with wisdom. I'm only focusing, do I have wisdom? I don't have that wisdom yet. I only have the stabilization, the calming down. All of a sudden, he naturally, spontaneously, is looking for wisdom, prajna. All of a sudden, he's looking for wisdom because he's already successful in calming down the mind. He's looking for wisdom. And the wisdom part is in the introspection, on this side, the introspection. Now the practitioner's mind is immersed in absorption. He begins to introspect his fine and subtle in and out breath as a wind in the midst of space. He feels nothing. He just feels there's a very subtle breath in space. He also begins to introspect all the 36 categories of his own body. When you are in samadhi, because you are used to attaching to externalities, and all of a sudden you don't attach anymore, that it seems that you're losing something because you are in a standstill. It's just like you are in a space, you are in nothing to hang on to. And then you know that the Buddha attained wisdom, right? Then you start to hang on to something that is the closest to you. Then you start to introspect what? Introspect your breath. You start to introspect your internal organs. We call it introspection of the 36 categories of his own body. Because what exists is no body. You think you have a body existence, but then your wisdom would naturally follow to, do I exist as a body? So you start to introspect your body. And when you introspect not only your body, you only introspect your feelings. The body comes out from the feeling. You only also introspect when you're not introspecting your body or your breath or anywhere in the body, when you are not introspecting the feelings, because you also have feelings, right? What kind of sensation? Good sensation, bad sensation, neutral sensation. When you're meditating, you also have this sensation, right? You still have cold, you still have this sensation. And then you also have, sometimes your thought goes away. When your thought goes away, then you put it back. You also have this your mental feeling. And then you also have the Dharma's feeling, because you have a Buddhist concept in your mind, emptiness concept, the concepts of impermanence, the concepts of non-self, the concepts of suffering. All these things will work also when you are doing meditation in your introspection. And then this kind of introspection would come naturally to you, and then a question comes up in your mind. Now I'm unable to apprehend the existence of any person or Dharma, because you realize sunyata, which is no inherent existence, and then you will slowly get into, if I don't have any existence, who am I? What am I? You start to introspect, where does my thought comes from? What gives rise to all these things? In the first place, what gives rise to my mind that starts the counting? Who is counting? Who is following? Who is filling the focus? Who is introspecting? You're going to the source of all this. Who is doing all that? You're returning. You're returning to find out who is thinking. And we already have started. We stopped at that point in the last session. You are introspecting not only the concept, not only the body, not only the breath, not only how stabilized you are introspecting, who is this that is doing this introspecting? Who is this that's doing the counting? Who is this that's doing the following, the stabilization, and the thinking? You are going back to the source of the thinking. Who is this mind? You're returning to the source and find out, what is he doing there? And last time we stopped at that. I'm looking at the clock now. I've done a review of counting, following, stabilization, and introspection. And I haven't finished returning, and that's why I'm going to talk about next time. Let us continue with how to meditate. We've been on this topic for at least 50 hours already, and we haven't really finished. Just to review the main PowerPoint slide, the 6 gates to samatha and vipassana. So it's in 2 parts. Meditation is in 2 parts. The calming part, which is stabilization, and the contemplating part, which is the introspection. And the stabilization is the mental stabilization. In the Sanskrit language is samatha, and introspection in the Sanskrit language is vipassana. Why do we have to put the Sanskrit language? Because that is the original word spoken by the Buddha and later translated into English and Chinese and many other languages. And sometimes we need to know the origin of the words so that we know exactly what it means. Stabilization is counting, following, and stabilization. Introspection is in three parts too. Introspection itself, turning, and purification. Counting and following are the preparation for the actual cultivation, for the actual practice. You really have to be very familiar with counting, very familiar with following. These are the preparation. So if you don't even know counting and don't even know following, it's quite difficult to meditate. And this method is not just a method suggested by just meditation teachers or anyone who claim to be expert in meditation. This a method suggested by the Buddha 2,600 years ago, not by an ordinary meditator. So we go by the origin of what the Buddha was talking about. So counting, following are the basics, and they are quite not easy already. But don't think that this is something difficult to do, difficult to overcome. Anything can be achieved. As long as you put your mind to it, whatever the mind can conceive, the mind can do. So counting and following are the expedient means, the prerequisites, the preparation for it. Stabilization, introspection, and turning are the central practice, the cultivation. And then purification is the result. So stabilization, introspection, and turning are the cultivation. You're cultivating it, and purification is somehow the realization of it. So this is just a review. And the last time we talk about returning, and we say this is just a very fast review again. Since one introspects from the mind, one should now return to the direction of the origin to introspect the very mind that is engaged in introspection. When we introspect, when we think, when we contemplate, we're contemplating from the mind, using some certain concepts and interacting with externalities. That's how we introspect. And now, returning or turning is to say, where does this mind come from? Getting back to the mind that is able to do this. Previously, we just say the mind is going to think about this, the mind is going to analyze this, the mind is going to investigate this, the mind is going to contemplate this, and so that we can build up wisdom, build up samatha, build up stabilization, etc., etc. We are using the mind, the thought, the mind, to interact with something external. Even the concepts are external. The concepts, you learn certain concepts, you use those concepts to contemplate, to introspect. So you are using your mind, which is the subject, and the objects to concentrate, or to stabilize, or to think, or to build up wisdom. And now we're doing something more profound. We're going to investigate the source. Where does this mind come from? That investigate. Where does this mind come from? To analyze. Where does this mind come from that is involved with depression, with hatred, with anxiety? How about going back to the source now? Not just taking a look at the externalities. Not just say, this is affecting me. You are affecting me. The noise affects me. Your look affects me. What you said affects me. You interact with the externalities. Now you say, what is this mind that is doing all this? You know what I mean? You go back to the source. And we say, if you go back to the source, the mind that engages in introspection comes from where does it arise? There are two probabilities. We're studying the probability theory. You know, at university, we study the theory of probabilities. That's under the scope of statistics, probabilities. Now, two probabilities. One probability is this thought comes from the mind involved already in the introspection. It's a carry forward. You are introspecting it now. This introspection, this returning, this probability. Where does the mind come from? It comes from a mind. It comes from a mind involved in introspection. Another probability is from a mind not involved in introspection. These are the two exhaustive probabilities, right? It's either yes or no, right? Either this or either that, right? And then we say, let's examine number one first, and then we examine number two, right? Is it from a mind involved in introspection? We say, I'm just doing a review. I already explained it for 2 hours already. We're just doing a review. From a mind involved in introspection, we say, if this is true, there must have been a pre-existing introspection process already underway that carries forward. In other words, there must be an earlier process giving rise to the current process, like existence of a father giving rise to existence of a son. The son comes from the father, right? If there's no father, there's no son. It must evolve from somewhere. But in the present situation, this is not the case, as there was not yet anything immediately preceding counting, following, and stabilization that was identifiable, verifiable with this inspection process. So that means is from a mind involved in introspection already? No, it isn't. According to probability, it is not from a mind. The conclusion is the introspection thought arose from a mind involved in introspection. It's not true. It's not true. That is not true. That statement is not true. That it is from a mind already involved in introspection is not true, right? But you really have to think about probability theory. You really have to think about logic. It would help you if you study symbolic logic. It's not easy to assimilate and digest this, but I already explained it. This is just a review, so I'm not going to go into detail. The second probability is it's generated from the case that introspection thought arose from a mind not involved in introspection. From a mind involved in introspection, we already have proven it logically that it's not true, so it's not from a mind involved in introspection. Now how about from a mind not involved in introspection, the other probability? But this probability is broken down again into two probabilities. The first probability is it the case that the mind not involved in introspection generated it when that non-introspection thought had already ceased or had not ceased? These two probabilities. Again, it comes two probabilities. Either had already that introspection thought had stopped, or that introspection thought had not yet stopped. All right, let's examine the first one. If one maintains that it was generated by a Dharma which had already ceased to exist, one should realize that once an extinct Dharma had already disappeared, it is no longer able to generate any introspection thought, as it violates the law of non-contradiction. This is not easy to understand when you have to think about it. Or, number two, if it had not yet ceased, then this would be a case of two thoughts existing simultaneously, which is unapprehensible. Two thoughts mixed together, then which is two thoughts mixed together, then what is what? If it is that thought that has the characteristic of cease and not cease, another possibility, cease and not cease, or neither cease nor not cease, it is all untrue as it violates the law of contradiction. How can it be right and not right? How can it be no feeling and have feelings? It's a contradiction. So according to that, the conclusion is the introspection thought arose from a mind not involved in introspection. It's not true. It's not true. None of them is true. So what's the conclusion? The conclusion is, I brought back the first two probabilities now. The conclusion is it aroused from a mind? Did it arise from a mind involved in introspection? Not true. Is it arose from a mind, arising from a mind not involved in introspection? Not true. So none of the above are true. So this mind that engages in introspection does not arise in any situation at all. The introspective mind was originally unproduced. So, there's no thought. The thought is all conditions ripe, then it produces. It doesn't have its own nature. The thought is just a conditional thought. It has no nature of its own. You just hang on to it. So that's the cultivation of returning. So the conclusion is the introspective mind was originally unproduced, unborn, uncaused. Because it was not unproduced, it does not exist. Because it does not exist, it is empty, devoid of inherent existence. Because it is empty, there is no mind engaged in the process of introspection. The mind that is engaged in the process of introspection is no mind. It has no inherent existence. Do not hang on to duality-based extremes. If there is no mind, how could there be any external object which serves as the object of introspection? If there is no mind, how could there be any external object? There's no external object which serves as the object of introspection. Since there is no subject, there's no object. The vanishing of both the objective externalities and the mind is the meditative process of turning to the source. This is the cultivation of returning. Then you turn back to the subject and you say, even the subject is conditionality. Even the subject does not have its own inherent existence or nature. That means if we use the body, our body and mind only live in the delusion of a dream. It is not real. But we think it's real all the time. So when you know that, not only the object is empty, even the subject is empty. We always hang on to the subject. I lost this, I gained this. But even the mind that is thinking about this loss, this gain, is empty. So why are we attaching to it? Difficult to understand. The understanding of this is not just from the words. It's not just comes from the logic. Does it mean that the professor of logic is all enlightened? Not necessarily. The professor knows the logic, but he does not know the reality of it, the inherent understanding of it. He has got to cultivate it in order to realize it. If you only realize it through the words, you're not realizing it. You're understanding it through the words. You haven't really cultivated it. In other words, don't just talk about emptiness. Don't just talk about, I don't want to hang on to it. I don't want to get addicted to it. You have to practice it. The true understanding, the prajna of it, comes from not the words, not the logic. It's from something that we can talk about. But we still have to talk about it though. So what do? So we say, we're trying. If understanding the meaning of it through the words and understanding the meaning of it through the understanding of high-sounding, high-profile logic, then logic is prajna. But logic flows from prajna, but it itself is not prajna. The wave said, I'm not water, I'm a wave. To understand that the wave is the water, the wave has to do something to understand it is not wave, it is just being affected by the wind, and then the motion that it becomes a wave, it is actually water. But the wave doesn't believe that it is water. I'm a wave. So the wave really have to get back to the realization that it is water. Then it does not matter how the winds blow, the wind wouldn't affect the wave anymore. The wave is not happy because it's always coming up and rising and moving and all that. The wave is not happy. I am a wave. How come I'm affected by the wind? How come I'm affected by all these externalities? But when the wave is not affected by this, completely calmed, getting back to the purity of it, the wave is not affected by any wind anymore because it knows it is water. The realization of turning. Now, we talk about the cultivation of turning. Now we're going to the realization of turning. The vanishing of both the objects and the mind. The objects are the external objects, and the mind is the knowing faculty that knows the object. In other words, the subject and the object, right? You are the knowing faculty, and the object is the object of knowing, you know. The vanishing of both the extreme of attaching to the object and the extreme of attaching to the mind, which is the ego, the you, the me, is the turning back to the source of the mind. Now the wisdom of the mind opens and develops. All sorts of introspection becomes spontaneous, unpremeditated, requiring no efforts. In other words, the wave knows that it is water. It does not attach to the understanding that it is a wave anymore. It is not being affected by external winds or whatever, or the motor of a boat. It is being affected by nothing. Or the movement of a fish, because it knows that it is actually in stillness. It is actually in the equanimity of the essence of water. No one should know the dualistic thinking of objects in the mind. Now, not no one. Now, one should know the dualistic thinking of objects in the mind, and even its absence is a nuisance in the meditation. This thinking about returning to the source, this thinking about I am a water, I am a wave, even that you have to get rid of. Now one should relinquish turning to the source and establish the mind in the path of purification. Now you even relinquish, forsake the subject, forsake the object. Both are extremes. One is the knowing faculty, i.e., that is to say you or ego, and the other externalities, all kinds of externalities. Even these two extremes, they become a thinking nuisance, a meditative nuisance. It's not purity. Because whenever you're thinking about a subject is not pure, you're thinking about an object is not pure. Sure, objects are even more polluted than the subject. And even thinking about these dualistic-based extremes is a nuisance to purification. Even thinking about water is too much. Even the wave thinking about, I'm not a wave, I'm water. Even that thinking is a thinking, is too much. You want to go to purification. That is going to the path of purification. Okay, then we're going to the next one now. We already finished turning. Remember we said meditation have 6 aspects to it. Stabilization is following, counting, and stabilization. And introspection is introspection, turning, and purification. Now we have dealt with 5. We're going into purification, which is the effect of all the other forerunners, all the other things that we have done. Purification of the 5 skandhas, as an example. We continue with the meditation, continue with thinking like this, but we like, first of all, we like to refrain from generating the false thoughts of each skandha. The false thought of materiality, the false thought of perception and feeling, the false thought of conceptualization, the false thought of relational action and speech, the false thought of consciousness. We want to refrain from doing that and ending defilements of discriminative thinking. yes or no, clear, polluted and unpolluted, pure and impure, leading to the end of self-grasping. You try to end ego, to end the I. And equipped with all these other, you have learned about following, counting, stabilization, introspection. Now you reflect a little bit more, not just externalities, on yourself, on the body now, on who am I? What am I doing in here? How do I interact with the external world? And then we know that what are the five skenters? You, me, everybody is a composite, is a conglomeration of the five skenters. Just to refresh our memory, what are the five skenters? We broke it down into five, but let's do a little bit more into the five skenters. We are body and mind add together, right? Body and mind, right? Body and mind. We have a body, we have a mind, right? The body, the five skenters means the body is materiality. What is the body make up of? Molecules, right? Material. The body is not something that you cannot touch. The body is made up of matter, of form, molecules, elements. And then we have the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, which is a conglomerate of the lungs, the spleens, the heart, the skin, the bone, even the feces, the urine, the phlegm, the hair, the head. So body, materiality. The eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body. But other than the body, we also have the mind, right? How can there be a body without mind? The mind has what? The mind has perception and feeling, conceptualization and analysis, and memory, and then carry into actions through this conception, cognition, and then going through some process of storage. It's stored in the memory. We have a memory, we have, all this mentality of it, which is not as concrete as the body, right? You cannot touch your thought, right? The mind, the thought. Can you hear your thought? Yes, when you were thinking, actually you thought you were hearing, but you're not listening. You're just hearing within, right? Not with the eardrums. So the five skenters, then you have to penetrate through it and see its emptiness, and see that there is no subject, no object. To see that it has no inherent existence. It just exists on conditionality. It exists in a very impermanent basis. It is subject to changeability. But we have a problem. We're attached to it. We're attached to love. We're attached to reputation. We're attached to money. We're attached to food. We're attached to a relationship, man and woman relationship. We're attached to everything because not only the body attaches, the mind attaches. No exceptions. But the Buddha said they have no inherent existence. When you come to analyze it in the meditation process, to purify, and when you purify it, you find that all these are not true. They exist, they're unreal. All these unreal. Unreal does not mean that they don't exist. They exist only impermanently. They exist subject to changes. Every second is changing. Our body is changing every second. Major change in 7 days, they say. Nothing is not changing. But we keep on attaching to it. I'm talking about the five skandhas now. I'm just reviewing the five skandhas so that we can go back to purification to see how we can purify the five skandhas and come up with something that don't attach to ego, don't attach to this I. No self-grasping. So materiality, we say we have the eyes contact objects, the environment, ears interact sound, nose with smell, tongue with taste, body with touch. What does this mean? Body with touch. Body, of course, touches. But this touch is not just touch. This touch is contact, organizational contact. When we say organizational contact, the organ contact, the blood circulation, the metabolism of the body. Everything about a body, it interacts with each other. Outside interaction, it touches. Inside is all this flow, all this qi, all this, you name them. What is all this? Qi and blood and circulation, air, all these things, that's the body. So materiality sort of summarizes everything into eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body. That's what the Buddha identified it so that we can easily understand our body. But why did he and his disciples and all those philosophers depict conspicuously to bring out eyes, ears, nose, tongue? And then put everything, your organs, your heart, your spleen, your lung, underbody. Because the eye, ears, nose, tongue are the external salesman and sales lady that absorb all these things and complicate the whole issues. Your eyes attached to beauty, to sex. Your ears attached to get annoyed with criticisms, and your ears and your tongue want to taste the flesh and blood of animal. That's why you kill animals for food. You like to, all these senses get us into trouble. And it affects the body because it stimulates the hormone. All our senses, all the eyes, ears, nose, and tongue, every one of these affect every element of the body, affect every cell of the body, every molecule of the body. Your eyes, you think your eyes can do anything your eyes want? Everything your eyes does affect your body inside, which also affects the mind. So if your eyes see things that you shouldn't see and you attach to it, affects the body right away. Not only does it affect your body, it affects the brain right away. You may not notice it. You yell out, you shout, you yell, you curse, you do all kinds of things. You think you just yell it out and that's it? Nobody can hear you? You blame someone, you curse someone and that's okay? No. Affects everything. Every molecule of the body. Every hormone inside the body. Every cell. Every seat in your consciousness. So that's the reason why the Buddha said we need vinaya, we need sila, we need precept, we need discipline so that we can gear ourselves onto the right path. Your eyes must see that your eyes should see and must not see that your eyes shouldn't see. Your nose should smell, your tongue should do in the right way. That's the reason why monks have 250 precepts, nuns 348, laymen 8 precepts, 5 precepts. And all these summarized into crude precepts: abstain from killing, abstain from lying, abstain from sexual misconduct, abstain from intoxications. All these are just trying to tell your ears, your eyes, your nose, your tongue to be extremely careful. But who are careful with the eyes, with the nose, with the ears, with the tongue? We're not careful. We just use them whatever we want, creating a lot of karma. As a result of creating karma, we suffer because any karma you created, it bounces back to you. That's the Newton law of energy. Whatever you give out bounces back to you in the same opposite direction, multifold, Whatever you give out bounces back to you. Whatever bad things you give out bounces back to you too. Which is basically all the sensory organs, all the feelings, good feelings, pleasurable feelings, unpleasurable feelings, all these feelings. Everything you see, everything you hear, you attach feeling to it. I hate this, I love this. I'm neutral with this. Your conceptualization, you conceptualize with your own personal view. How can this guy waste any food? This is against the law of nature. How can this be done like that? This is how I see it. You always judge things with your own opinion. Everybody wear a pair of glasses with their own opinion tainted on it. Everybody has an internal commentator inside of them. You give comments according to your own background, your own education, the way you're brought up, all your common energies that you brought forward from previous lives. And yet we say that I am objective. I am neutral. I don't attach any opinion to anything. Can you? Almost like impossible. You don't even know about it. You attach to it, even you don't know about it. I attach to it, I don't even know about it. All those people who know that I attach, I should turn back, I should return, I should think about it, I should think about my existence, I should think about what is this, I should think about, am I ignorant about this? That's the reason why Socrates have been searching all over the market. I'm looking for someone who is ignorant, who knows that he's ignorant. Everybody don't think that they're ignorant. Who thinks that I'm ignorant? I'm ignorant. Nobody thinks that he's ignorant. The only thing is smart. I'm smart. I know all these. So, these are the 5 skandhas that we have to work through, and the mind is broken down into mano, which is all this rational thinking, the thinking that is more or less rational, and manas, the ego, the emotional mind, the rational mind, more or less rational mind, that you pick up the morality you pick up from society, the norm of the society, the norm of the family, the norm of mankind. All this is what you build up in mano. And the manas is the emotional mind. Your rational mind and your emotional mind are always a tug of war with each other, always pulling and pulling. You see who is winning. And a tug of war all the time. Emotional mind and rational mind. And it seems that the emotional mind is always winning. You're always emotional. It's always winning. And the alliance is all storing all these things. You can't get away with all these things. Life after life after life after life. And that will make up of these 5 skandhas. Will make up of the body and mind, materiality, perception and feeling, conceptualization, investigation and analysis, and memory. Volitional action is the carrying out into speech and action, creating new karma, and consciousness is the storage of all these. And this is usually how we think. Perception, cognition, ego, store consciousness. The center, perception, cognition, ego, and store consciousness are the 5 skandhas, the body and mind. And on the other side of this consciousness is how the mental experiences work in our daily lives. And the external environment, now the objects, the sound, the smell, the taste and touch, they're affecting all the time. All this interrelationship, all this intertwining of all these complications all make up all these karmic energies that we're creating. Let's get back to the cultivation of it. The cultivation. How do we cultivate? How do we get to understand not just the words of materiality, perception and feeling, conceptualizations, volitional action and speech and consciousness? We say we refrain from generating false thoughts, wandering thoughts of the body, of the perception and feeling, conceptualization, and ending defilements of discriminative thinking, leading to the end of self-grasping. Now, this is just a summary. How do you do it? How do you do it is all in the practice. Getting back to the practice again. How do we practice it? How to go sunyata, no self. How to build up all these practices with all this, the Buddhist conceptual thinking. A summary of what we should do. We should think about our existence. How do we purify it? How do we purify our existence? The difference between an animal and a human is the animal just, when the dog is hungry, he wants to eat. When the dog is unhappy, he may bark. He will not say, the dog probably will not say, where do I come from? Why am I in reincarnation? Why do I feel unhappy sometimes? Why does my masters of the house always like this? How come they're quarreling all the time? How come they have emotional problems? How do we all together resolve this emotional problem? You would have thought the dog would think like that? I don't think an animal would think like that. They feel hungry, they just want to eat. They feel being intimidated, they just want to defend themselves by hurting the opponent. But the human is something different. The human think about the value of existence. Previous life, future life, and the present life. But even humans, is every human doing that? Or you just involved with every day, you're thinking about how to make more money, how to if you get divorced, how to get a new girlfriend or boyfriend, and how to, I have kids, how do I get the kids to the best school, how to make more money, I'm wealthy enough, I'm a millionaire now, and what do? I go, before I go economy when I'm traveling, and then I become a millionaire, I go business class, and then sometimes I go first class, but then when I talk to my friends, some of my friends, well, I'm not happy with what I am now, even I'm going first class in my traveling, because some of my friends have a private jet. You know, I want a private jet. I don't have to go through all these customs, they can do everything for me. I have my private pilot and a stewardess. I have a house, I have an apartment before, and then I have a house in Sonnersea. And then my house is only 3,000 square feet. And look at this castle. I have one of 3 acres on Sonnersea. You have insatiable desire. You see, his wife is beautiful, and my wife, I don't know why, she's no good. You always strive for more. You always want, and some of them do it by illegal means too, creating a lot of bad karma. Who would suffer? You yourself would suffer. So cultivate purification. Throw away this self-grasping. How do we do it? You have to go through a lot of all these Buddhist concepts and learn of meditation and all that. All these previous things that you have learned, you brought them into the right telescope, the right magnifier, the right way of looking at it, and then you practice accordingly. You not just talk about it. You have to walk the board, not just talking about the board. Walk board. You have to practice it. You can be the best eloquent speaker of Buddhism, but you're selfish. You're egoistic. So how does Buddhism help you? Is Buddhism just a lecture, just books? Somebody wrote 6, 7 books of Buddhism, and he's always talking about how much you got from copyright. How much do I get from all these? And he's talking about an organization. How can my organization get more devotees so that I can get more donation? You don't practice. You just know the literature of it. It's not enough. The Buddha said it's not enough. So we have to cultivate purification. And cultivation is not just talking about it. You really have to do it, right? Okay, let's go on to the next, the realization of purification. One achieves a state where the mind is in full accord with wisdom, leading to a direct experiencing of samadhi. Slowly you will gear yourself in such a way that your mind is equilibrium of tranquility, your wisdom and your mind. In other words, your mind is not at a tug of war with each other. You come to one unity where there's pure tranquility, pure purification, coming to a samadhi. Now, even the samadhi, the purification is in two parts. One is the semblance realization of purification and the real realization of purification. Semblance is you're not there yet. You're not a real enlightenment yet. You're close. And real realization is something that you can't really talk about. It's beyond words, beyond communication. You only know about it, but the talking of it is meaningless because you can't express it. I'm just back from Guan Island, and it does not matter how I describe it to you. You have not been there. You don't know what Guan Island is all about. You have to be there. Can you tell me what's the scenery like in Guan Island? I say, well, I can talk about it. And then you say, I understand it. Oh, is it that way? This is the way I understand it. This is semblance realization. You truly understand it, this semblance. It is more or less like that, but you're not there yet. It's not real realization. So it is real realization of purification. It's the genuine part of it. And the semblance is just more or less close, similar realization of it. The defilements of the free realms come to a halt, to a stop, stand still. The practitioner will be out of samsara of the free realms. When you have complete purification, you are at a point where all this ego, all these things dropped. And when this body is gone, when you shed this body off, you don't go through reincarnation anymore. This is a burden that we have to shed off. You love this body so much, but this body that you have to get rid of. We must know how to get rid of this body. Who wants to get rid of the body? Only dying, right? Everybody's afraid of dying, of death. But you got to die out this body to go to that place where you call enlightenment. There's no one in samsara that does not die. If God tells you that you don't have to die in here, in this world, how can that be? Because there's always changeability. If there's a God, of course, we have to talk about that. Say that is the heaven you can go. It may be true. That heaven it's only, according to the Buddha, that heaven is only a place where you are temporarily immigrate in there, and there you still have to learn how to shut the body off and go to that state where the mind is in full accord with wisdom, where we call nirvana. And Amitabha Buddha also built that heaven too. But that heaven is only an intermediate state because one cannot really attain a complete, real realization of purification of one's lifetime. It's completely difficult. So we really have to go to a place where you learned to have the real realization of purification. So that's the realization of purification. And just to wrap up today's summary of what is today talk, contemplating is the same as introspection, but I'm using contemplating. Contemplating the emptiness of all beings is defined as introspection. All beings means not only sentient, but all sentient and non-sentient. Sentient beings have feelings like you and me. Non-sentient like the floor, matter. So all beings, introspecting all beings as empty, sunyata, contemplating externality. Contemplating the emptiness of Dharma is defined as turning, that is contemplating in the internalities. If you search in the dictionary, internality has economic meaning, but this is internal, that means everything inside, the subject. The subject is your knowing faculty. The knowing faculty itself is also emptiness. So both the subject and the object are empty. Contemplating the emptiness of duality is defined as purification. That means no subject, no object. No introspection and turning is just a method going to purification. the duality part of it, the subject and the object, extremes, internal, external, extreme, introspection, internal, extreme. Even the extreme, even the Dharma has to go. Even Buddhism has to go. When you know Buddhism, truly know Buddhism, throw away Buddhism. It's a nuisance. That's just a raft to the shore. That's just a boat to the shore. Get rid of that boat. Don't attach to the boat, but you need the boat. You need the boat, but you want to go ashore? Get rid of the boat. Don't hang on to the boat. Oh, this is my boat. I spent $50,000 on this boat. I want to get rid of it. Get rid of the boat in order to get ashore. Contemplating emptiness of duality is defined as purification, absence of both externality and internality. That's the realization of purification. I can even say I finished how to meditate, and we can also go on for another year. Whether we should go on for another year or not, because turning and purification is not really talk about stuff. All this previous stuff, counting, following, stabilization, introspection, we can talk about them. But turning, we still can talk about them a little bit. Purification, we can't even talk about them. Those are the effects of doing right in all those previous 5. So we may as well say, okay, this is it. Or we can carry on and on and on. There's no one rule for Buddhism. And finally, even all these is, strictly speaking, even these, at the final ultimate destination, even these are roadblocks to you. These are the hurdles that strengthen your energy to jump. The hurdles, when you can jump that, even the hurdles have to go in order to get there. What is meditation? We said stabilization or calming of the mind, introspection of the mind, and then we have stabilization, we have counting, following, and stabilization itself. Some people call it calming down the mind. And then on the introspection part of it, we have the introspection, some people call it contemplation, turning, and purification. And that's all about meditation. Calm down the mind, relax the body, introspect the mind, and attain enlightenment. So one part is dealing with, some people call it concentration, the other part is dealing with wisdom. That's the whole process of meditation, the activity of meditation. In a nutshell, we call it, we usually say in a nutshell, that's what it is. And counting, following are the preparation of it. You have to prepare for it. If say, these are the prerequisites, the preparation, the basics. And then stabilization, introspection, and turning is the actual cultivation of it. And then purification is the realization of it. So if we can summarize cultivation, preparation, cultivation, and realization. But to step back a bit, even before counting and following, which we call preparation, there are certain things you really have to prepare yourself even before counting, externalities required for meditation. The first one is observance of moral precepts. So one of these moral precepts, at least we have to observe the 5 precepts. Abstain from killing, abstain from lying, abstain from sexual misconduct, abstain from intoxicants, and abstain from stealing. So all these, if on the one hand you are meditating, trying to attain purity of mind, trying to attain enlightenment. On the other hand, you're always committing killing, lying, sexual misconduct, stealing, and intoxications. You're not doing it right, because you are going in the opposite direction. You wanted to go to the right direction, but actually your activities are geared towards the opposite directions. How can you achieve it? So the first very important externalities that's required for you to fulfill is observance of the precepts. So you have to take the 5 precepts. The second is go to a habitat that is quiet and peaceful. Go to a place where it is quiet and peaceful. So if you go to the city and join in a meditation center, and in that center they play music, they play guitar, piano, and then singing, and then they do some meditation, and the meditation, it seems that they only enjoy the activity and not what they realize and cultivate from performing the activity. So you have to go to a location that is quiet, not noisy, and peaceful. And what is that location? In the ancient days, that location is in the woods. So we call it forest meditation. Nowadays, who can go to the woods? Who can go to Sunshine Coast, Bowen Island, or go to an island that it's almost no people around? The Bowen Island that we always go to is you can't see anybody. You can't see sometimes you don't see anyone in a day, and you don't access to TV. You try not to access the internet. In these days, you can't stay away from internet. Even in Bowen Island, you still can access internet. So that's the reason why everybody has to surrender his cell phone when you are at Bowen Island. If you always get to the cell phone, how can you be peaceful? If you always get into YouTube, Google, you will have all these icons on your, pages and pages of iPhone. You can access anything. WeChat, WhatsApp, and how can you be peaceful? So go to a habitat that is quiet and peaceful. Sometimes we all have to be forced to go to that location. And even if you're forced, you always bring your cell phone along. So quiet and peaceful is in the woods, in the forest. You see nobody. That is a prerequisite. But have you fulfilled that prerequisite? You're sitting in your own apartment, and then you turn on the radio, and all this boisterous traffic noise, and then the phone rings, and then the vibration of your iPhone telling that you have messages to come through, and almost every half hour you have vibration. Even if you turn off your phone, you always, every time. Observance of moral concept, you think you have fulfilled this prerequisite? Most people no. They still involved in hunting, fishing, partying. They still involved in sexual misconduct. They still involved in stealing, downloading, infringing on the rights, copyrights, and signing up contracts that is not authentic. How can anybody get enlightenment? Externalities, these are the prerequisites, the basics required for meditation. Not to say, I want to go to a meditation center and this is a peaceful, nice meditation center. You don't even know about it. And then you pay $50 per sitting, or then you join a party, and then you talk. You talk in the meditation hall, you talk in the meditation center, then you do your social media, talking nicely about what you're doing, what they are doing, trying to find out what they are doing and what you are doing, expressions. So go to a habitat that is quiet and peaceful, No one around except the moon, the pine trees, the river, the ocean, and nobody around. Nature. Many Buddhas got their enlightenment in nature, not in the city, not in a concrete building. The Buddha attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. If you research into it, most of the saints who were enlightened, they were enlightened in the forest, not in the city, not in their own home, where their wives, husband, children all around. All right, 3, halt all your other activities that are not associated with meditation. Can we do that? No. You want to learn calligraphy, you want to learn your guitar, your piano, and swimming, and yoga, and all kinds of partying activities, tea time, meditation. They want to put tea ceremony in meditation. They call it Zen, tea Zen, music Zen. They add a Zen, Z-E-N, to every activity they want to be associated with. So you have Zen tea, Zen music, Zen calligraphy, all kinds of Zen. Halt all your other activities. Stop all these activities. Meditation is not social gathering. Meditation is to let go. Leave all these things behind. Don't attach to them. How can meditation be attaching to music Zen, tea Zen, dancing Zen, yoga Zen? You put a Zen to everything. Planting Zen, garden Zen. That's number 3. Halt all other activities. Simple food and living. Well, you gotta have food, right? But your food has to be simple. Your living has to be simple. Number 5, accessibility to genuine teachers and or teaching. Where can we find genuine teacher? There are many teachers, we don't mention names, that would be okay, that would lead students going astray. There are many teachers who operate their centers for profit, for fame, for reputation. But are they genuine teachers? Of course, there are some genuine teachers. We don't want to exclude everybody. But watch out. There are teachers who want to boast of their supernatural power. Then you come to those teachers. He can see my lives 2 lives ago. And he has supernatural power. They always want to respect people who have supernatural power. That's the reason why they want to show you supernatural powers. Even the Buddha said, don't show supernatural power. You lead people astray. But people still keep on looking for teachers who have supernatural power. If supernatural powers can change your fate, can improve your meditation, you don't need to meditation at all. You just go to that teacher and he bestow his hand on your head and then he give you all the supernatural power. Don't believe in supernatural power. No such thing. Even there is such thing, it is an individualistic thing that shouldn't be boasted of, telling you. And you have that supernatural power actually, right in your consciousness. It's just been covered up by our greediness, our hatred, our desires, our anxiety, fear, jealousy, hatred, all the mental garbage that we have that have covered up all our supernatural nature. So we'll have to have accessibility to genuine teachers or teaching. Sometimes in the world you can't find a person, teacher. So you have to depend on teaching. But a good thing about nowadays is if you really control yourself in what you are viewing, sometimes you can get genuine information from the internet. So actually, there are some genuine information in the internet that you can get, that you can re-educate yourself, as long as you know how to filter them, as long as you know you're not addicted to the internet that you shouldn't have contacted. Then, as long as you have control, then you're okay. So, external factors require meditation. Have you got all those? Have you got all those that you should abide to? All right, let's talk about also things that we should watch out. We call it the 3 obstacles to meditation. We've been talking about the 6 doors, the stabilization and the introspection. And we should be well aware that there are obstructions, hurdles. In the Sanskrit language is avarana, obstacles, hurdles that you have to go through. Everybody has hurdles and obstacles, physical and mental. There's no exception. No one is exempted from obstacles in life. We have retribution-related obstacle, karma-related obstacle, afflictions-related obstacles. Retribution-related obstacles, vipaka, avarana. Karma-related is karma, avarana. Afflictions-related, klisa, avarana. And maybe let's talk about afflictions-related. We all have afflictions inside of us, in our consciousness. Afflictions-related obstacles, if we can point out the primary ones, actually there are more and more and more, but if we can get, so what are the primary ones? We say desire, hatred, and erroneous views. These are the afflictions self-generated inside, in our consciousness, that have been accumulated from many, many lifetimes ago, that has been like klesas, like garbage. We say garbage, mental garbage that we have accumulated in our immeasurable garbage tank since many lifetimes ago. And primarily, we only say primarily because so many of them. Desire, which include greediness, of course, desire, greediness. Greediness is just the primary word. Greediness in riches, in reputation, in sex, in, greediness in everything, in the impurities. Hatred, anger, jealousy. Erroneous views, we all have egoistic views inside of us. This is my underlying, belief. If you infringe on this, it's not going to be okay. I have my view. My view stands. It's better than yours. Everybody has erroneous views. And this underlying views, you may not even know about it. Egotistic views. The views that you have built up since, not only since birth, since many, many lifetimes ago. Some people have more jealousy than the others. Some people have more hatred than the others. Everybody is different in afflictions. Erroneous views, perverted views, all kinds of views. These are only the primary ones. And before we probe into, we investigate and analyze into what should we do with it, I think it's worthwhile just to know a little bit more about views, about mental afflictions. I summarize it from Vajrayana school of Buddhism, the study of the consciousness. And generally, primarily we say desire, hatred, and erroneous views. But when we break it further, we say we have 26 mental afflictions. But the Buddha said there are a lot more. Some of them we can't even classify because it's so subtle and hidden that we cannot even classify them. But if we want to classify them, the root, the basic ones, is greediness, anger, ignorance, arrogance, doubt, and false views. These are the primary ones. These are the root ones, the basic ones. And then we have the primary ones too, 8 of them. 6 are the basic root ones. Just to repeat it, greediness, anger, ignorance, arrogance, doubt, and false views, 6 root. And then we have 8 primary. Disbelief, laziness, indulgence, thoughts wandering, thoughts wandering like desultory views, torpor, sluggishness and all that. Forgetfulness, distraction, false understanding. Now these are the primary mental afflictions. The medium ones, shamelessness, no guilt, 2 of them. Secondary ones, hatred, expressed hatred, hidden hatred, vengeance, vexation, jealousy, harmfulness, parsimony. You only want to spend money on yourself, not on your friends, not on your family. You only better yourself. Parsimony, pride, concealment, flattery, deceiving. These are the secondary ones. So all these, we all have all these. You may not even know about it. Every view that we form, we're being polluted by this. Every action we want to take, every speech, we are all polluted by this hidden or expressed mental afflictions. So these are the afflictions. And let's get back to how do we get rid of these according to the sutras. Just generally, because we're only doing a general review. Desire, when a practitioner, a meditator, is sitting in meditation, it may be that the affliction of desire arises. Then he should resort to the gate of introspection of mind, employing the contemplation of impurity. If you have say a sexual desire coming up, then you contemplate on the impurity of the body. If you have a greediness for riches and money and reputation come up, you contemplate on the impurity of the riches, of the money, of the reputation. We all have methods to contemplate, but that's introspection of the mind. For example, in impurity, so if there's a sexual drive, a desire coming up in us, that happens all the time to every one of us, because we're in the karma world. We're in a world that is dominated by many, many desires, and the most conspicuous of these desires, detrimental desires, is the sexual desire. And the Buddha said, Azubha smriti, you use impurity contemplation to combat, to overcome desire, this kind of desire. If you don't have a method to overcome your sensual desires, you cannot overcome it. And some people even think that is normal, that is good. They want to be addicted to that every day. They think that is normal. But the Buddha said that is not normal. That's the reason why we are reincarnating. That's the main reason for reincarnation. So what is this impurity? Let's get, for the Azubha Bhavana, is how the Buddha teaches us to contemplate on impurity. I am just going through it in a summarize it. We have to think, when we have this sexual desire comes up in us, that we cannot get rid of it. It's not easy to get rid of desire, you know. It dominates your mind. Particularly if you are so young that your hormone stimulation is strong in you. When you're getting old, age, senior, that kind of desire may disintegrate or even get less and less. But if you are young, if you're a young person, the hormone stimulation, the hormone's activity is so strong that you simply cannot get rid of this desire. You have to somehow, in every way, fulfill that desire by doing whatever you want to do. And sometimes you get yourself into trouble because of that desire. So you have to know how to contemplate impurity, introspection, and then you have to contemplate, in this body in my body, if I start from the tip of my foot to the top of my head, my whole body is covered with 12 externalities. The hair, bodily hair, nails, skin, teeth, pus, tears, sweat, dirt, mucus, spit, urine, feces. The 12 externals. The human body, you think it's beautiful. You think you were so enchanted by it. But the Buddha said, if you examine it, the 12 externals, and none of it is beautiful. You think the hair is beautiful. You take out the hair and you see the hair follicles under the microscope. It has all kinds of bacteria in it. If you didn't wash your hair for 2-3 days, 4 days, you really stink. It does not matter how you look. And then your bodily hair, the nails, teeth, no matter how beautiful that face is, if your teeth the cracks of the teeth are covered with food and dirt, the meat of animals, of cow, of beef, of ducks, of chickens, the mouth really stinks. It's impure. When a Buddha look at a body, it's not the kind of body that you look at. You look at it with the desire for this hormones stimulation, then it's different. And there's in between that we look at the blood, the flesh, the outer skin, the inner skin, exact bone, veins, the sinew and marrow and blubber and brain and diaphragm and all that, synovium and all that. The in-between, the body in-between, the 12 in-between. And then the 12, we call it internal. The heart, the liver, the spleen, the lungs, the kidneys, the stomach, the intestine, gallbladder, small intestine, large intestine, pink phlegm, white phlegm, and all that. Our body is the traveling bag of our existence. It's a traveling bag that you've been carrying around all your life. And that traveling bag, as you're aging, it worns out. It becomes so worn out that you don't even want to look at it. Look at yourself, your own photo when you were a teenager, and compare it to now when you are 80. It's not the same person. Go to the internet to compare the before and after cosmetic makeup. You wouldn't believe it. It's so ugly before the makeup, and then after the makeup, you don't know who she is or who he is. It's all not real. It's not realistic. But you attach it so much that you can die for it, you can kill for it, you can do all kinds of things because of it. Asubha bhavana. If you check the internet, you will find a lot of ways how you use impurity, introspection, to overcome your sexual drive. You don't need it. But most people say you need it, but you don't need it. The more you need it, the more you're addicted to it, the more troubles you get into it. So there's desire. How about hatred? When the practitioner is sitting in meditation, it may be that the affliction of hatred arises. then he should resort to the gate of introspection of mind. Remember, introspection now is not following, counting, and stabilization. Introspection. Remember, meditation is not just stabilization. Stabilization and introspection happen sometimes simultaneously. It may not follow a sequence. It does not mean that when I first start, I start with counting and then following and then stabilization and then all that. Actually, the introspection starts maybe in the counting already, because introspection is about wisdom and analysis, investigation. You have to find out why I have to do this, how to do this. So it's not just step by step. It's everything happened together, but for the sake of explaining it, it seems to be step by step. It can be step by step too. It can be, do introspection at the same time with counting, do introspection at the same time with following, do introspection at the same time with stabilization. So introspection, wisdom, vipassana is always in every aspect of the meditation. It's not a distinct thing that you do one after another. And you cannot have wisdom without stabilization. If your thoughts are all desultory, wandering in every direction, you can't even think with detailed analysis. You can't even think with wisdom. So it's not a discrete activity. It's all related. What is not related in this world? One related to the other. The water affects the cloud affects the ocean affects the weather. Can you say every one of these should be considered in a discrete, single, unassociated analysis? They all affect each other. So, hatred, you employ the contemplation of loving kindness and compassion. If you always have anger in you, if you always have vengeance in you, if you always dislike this, dislike that, if you're always negative, everybody is bad. I mean, everything is bad, negative. I hate people because these people are that bad, Always have loving kindness, compassion to supersede your hatred. Always be forgiving, forgetfulness of people's bad deeds and try to forgive. If you have done deeds that is not right, always repent. For example, abortion. What do we do if when I was a teenager, I have done abortion. What am I going to do? Am I going to be guilty for the rest of my life? What should I do? Repentance. Correct it internally and externally. Try to tell people not to do the same mistakes that I have committed. And whatever deeds that I have done, I repent on it. I won't do it again. I advocate on compassion, kindness. You can change it. You can dilute the karmic energy that may be generated from the killing, from the abortion. Instead of not doing anything and just feel bad about it, feel guilty about it, do something about it. That will be helpful. That may change the course of the retribution that will lead you to bad effects. That may divert it. For example, if you have done abortion, bad effects will come out. It's just like throwing a ball, to give you an analogy, throwing a ball from this side to that side is going to be received on that side, the effect side. But if you have done something right, somebody would touch the ball and would get it out, and you won't get it. You will lessen the momentum that you have done in the killing, and that helps. There was a king in ancient India at the time of the Buddha, and his name was Ajatsu, and he killed his own father, king father, to become the king. He killed his own father. And then afterward, he was successful in killing his father and becoming the king. And he was so overwhelmed with guilt for the rest of his life that he shouldn't have killed his father. He went to the Buddha to seek repentance. He deplored for forgiveness. He shouldn't have done it that way. And his heart was so genuine. He was so truthful in the repentance. But after he died, he still had to go down to hell. But he went down to hell, suffered, and he bounced back again. That's what you call bouncing back hell. It's like a ball. You still have to go down to hell because you have committed that. But it bounced so quickly because of the energy of the repentance. It was so genuine in his repentance that he still had to suffer, but he suffered in a brief time and he bounced back again. And he became an arahant later in his life. It's called the ball bouncing back inferno. So repentance has a lot of power in it. So that's hatred, desire, hatred. And then erroneous views, when the practitioner is sitting in meditation, it may be that the affliction of erroneous views arise. Then he should resort to the gate of turning, engaging in analysis directed at the very source of his own mind. Now, if you have erroneous views, you go to turning again. You go to turning, not necessarily in introspection, not necessarily in introspection of the mind. You go to turning. What is turning? Get back to the source that thinks. Get back to the mind. Where does this thought, erroneous thought, come from? You analyze it. You investigate it. And you find out that is not realistic. It is not true. It is unreal. It's only an attachment. So you go to turning. In turning to the very source of your own mind. So the mind introspect with certain concepts on externalities. Now, because erroneous view is from the mind, you introspect your own mind now, the source where the thought comes from. So that's called turning back. So you have to use different methods slightly to change your method of introspection or turning. So this afflictions related obstacles. Now, remember we say there are obstacles in meditation. 3 kinds of obstacles. Afflictions related obstacles. We know that we have a lot of these obstacles that you have to jump over to be really successful in your meditation. These obstacles, how many people could overcome the hurdles? Not easy. Greediness, hatred, all these things will arise in you that would impede your meditation. These are only the individual afflictions-related obstacles. How about karma-related obstacles and retribution-related obstacles? We'll talk about these 2 obstacles next time. We have to understand what kind of obstacles we have in our meditation. You think meditation is easy? Once you get down to meditate, you would slowly clean up all your cliches, you clean up all your afflictions and all that. A lot of hurdles to go through. Meditation is not all the way, overcoming all the way. You really have to overcome them in meditation. A storm comes up, you go through the storm. A hurdle comes up, you jump over it. A lot of hurdles to jump over. But once you're jumping over those hurdles, if you really finish most of them, you'll be coming out smelling like roses in your enlightenment. That's enlightenment. You'll be coming out smelling like roses of enlightenment once you jump over all these hurdles. These hurdles are discovered by you in your meditation. You don't even know about these hurdles because in your daily life you have been greedy, jealousy, hatred, you have all these things. You don't even know them. The good thing is meditation lets you know them. But how many people really meditate? You know, you are on your way. You are rose seeds in the soil. You're on your way, actually, when you start a meditation. A lot of these people don't even know about it. They will continue with their mental afflictions. Now you know that you have to introspect. You have to sit down and deal with this problem. You are on your way. You already have taken the first step. But there are hurdles. You only have taken the first step, which is extremely difficult already. Without wisdom, you won't sit down and meditate. But how do you go the next step, jump the next hurdle? You have to go through it. So meditation is not like sailing a boat along Bowen Island waters. Everything is rosy. The wind is good. The ocean is quiet. It's not like that. It's stormy. But you're not afraid of the stormy sea. You want to sail through it. You don't want to step back. You want to go. You want to straight. You want to glide through it overcome all the difficulties. It's just like people singing, climb every mountain, cross every stream. You know, climbing mountain, crossing streams to get on to enlightenment is not blissful all the time, every way. There are many, many sleepless nights, many traumas that you have to go through. It's just like what people call Kundalini awakening, that you could be going through months of sleepless nights, years of trauma. You lost your job, your mind is disoriented, but actually you're on your way because you're overcome those hurdles. A topic I've been talking about for quite a while, quite a long time, how to meditate. And we've come to the subtopic that there are obstacles in meditation. Meditation is not just when you sit, it will be blissful, it will be happy, delightful, everything is sailing through, no obstructions, no hurdles to go through. Meditation is just like life. In life, there's obstacles that you have to overcome. So there are obstacles, meditation, and you really have to overcome those obstacles. Then you advance. So nothing comes easy. There's no free lunch, except we have a free lunch today. No free lunch. And so if you encounter difficulties, don't get disappointed. Don't say, when you sit for a while, oh, how come I feel this, how come I feel that? Not every session is delightful. Not every day is delightful. So you must prepare that when you're meditating, when you advance higher and higher and higher, you may encounter quite a few obstacles that you have to overcome. Once overcome those obstacles, you'll be coming out smelling like roses, enlightenment. So you're on your way, but you have to go through those storms. And now, what are these obstacles? These obstacles are various. It's immeasurable. It's almost like, what are obstacles in life? It depends on your own karma too. It depends on your background, depends on where you're living and your environments, the country you're living in, your family. Everything is related. Causality, nothing is not related. So how successful you will be in your life, in your meditation, how successful is in your pursuit of enlightenment, all depends on multifaceted, many factors. And if we really have to identify these for the sake of talking about it, there are how many? There are 3 obstacles to meditation. Not just to meditation, to life. Afflictions-related obstacles, karma-related obstacles, retribution-related obstacles. And all these three obstacles are actually interrelated too. All these are interrelated. Afflictions-related obstacles. Let's talk about these generally. Well, what are afflictions? Some people call them emotions. Emotions-related obstacles. In the Sanskrit language, it's klesa, avarana. Yeah. They are all associated primarily with desire, hatred, erroneous views, and last time we talked about these last time, so you have to refer to the unwholesome afflictions that always come up. For example, greediness, anger, ignorance, arrogance, doubt, false views. These are the basic ones. Everybody have these. You may not realize it. They're hidden. You may think that I'm altruistic, I'm not selfish, but you may not even realize you're selfish. You're egotistic. So there are also mental afflictions like disbelief, laziness, indolence, wandering thoughts all the time, or torpor. Torpor, it is very sluggish, you don't want to do anything, and forgetfulness, distraction, false misunderstanding of things. And all these are mental afflictions. And there are also many of them. Shamelessness, no guilt. You never feel guilty. You have done the wrong thing, but you never feel guilty about it. Hatred. Hatred is expressed. And vengeance is hidden. You may not express your hatred, you hide it. And then vexation. Sometimes nobody annoy you and you just feel unhappy. Vexation, depression, anxiety, guilt feeling, fear of death, suspicion of yourself, suspicion of others, and jealousy also. Green eye monster, jealousy. Harm, parsimony. You only want to spend money on yourself or your friends or family. You don't want to be charitable, parsimony. And pride, ego, concealment. You don't want people to know, And flattery, flowery language, double-tonguing, deceiving, all these are afflictions. If we can name them, the Buddha named only 26 grand categories, and each of these can be broken down into minute others, immeasurable afflictions that we have. And then we say, how come we have hatred coming up? How come we have depression coming up? How come we have arising in us fear, anxiety, jealousy, indolence, laziness? Where does this come from? Then remember when we talk about Buddhist psychology, or in the Sanskrit language, Vajnana Matrata, your mind, you have to know your mental experience, process, activity, if you want to know how these emotions come up. So we always have used this as a simple example. We have external environments like objects, sound, smell, taste, and touch, just to categorize them. External environments, externalities are so immeasurable that how can you classify them? How can you categorize them? But just for the sake of talking, objects, anything that is made up of elements, molecules, anything you can see, you can hear, you can feel, you can touch, objects. And then sound, your externalities, right? Let's summarize all the externalities into how many? Into 5, right? All the objects, all the sound, smell, taste, touch. What is this touch? This touch is your interaction with the externalities, with the outside world, including your organ interaction inside, everything. So all these external environments, internally we have perception through the 5 sensory organs that we have. How do we perceive things? How do we interact with the externalities? Through this eye consciousness. When your sensory organs are in contact with externalities, what arises? What arises? Consciousness arises. When your eyes see something, visual consciousness arises. When your ears listen, audio consciousness arises. It may not arise if you don't have attention. If you turn on the radio and you don't even pay attention to it, then your listening, your auditory consciousness about the sound produced from the radio is not working. So you really have to pay attention to it. So assuming that you pay attention to all these, then when your sensory organs are in contact with externalities, you have eye consciousness, ears, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, and body consciousness. These 5 consciousness summarize all external consciousness. And that's not enough. That's only the perception. Other than that, you also have cognition inside of you, which is the 6th consciousness. We call it the mano consciousness, the 6th consciousness. Everybody has the 6th consciousness, the mano. We always, jokingly, we say the manager that supervises your senses, your ears, your eyes, your nose, your taste, your tongue. There's got to be a manager in here, the manager. How good is the manager? Everybody's manager is different. Some are very capable, some are incapable, some are criminal, some are altruistic, some are selfish. It depends on who is your manager, who is inside of you, your mano. And then, how does the mano work? Cognition. In modern psychology, you call it cognition, how you cognize something. Then your manager performs various functions of the cognitive processes, including interpretation, investigation, analysis, intellectualization, everything, going back to picking up past files from the cabinets, putting out past files and fixing budgets for the future and supervising the present. So past, present, and future. The mano is doing all these things, very busy. Our mano have been very busy. Doing what? Some manos are doing meaningless things. Some manos are doing meaningful things. How do you want your mano to do? You have your own mano inside of you. Have you been using the mano well, meaningfully, or everybody's different? But that's cognition according to modern psychology. Perception and then cognition. And the Buddha's language is consciousness and mano, the 6th consciousness. And more than that, the manager is just the present life. How about things that happen in the future and in the past life? You're going to know something about this? Sorry for those who already have been listening to these all the time. I'm sure they can memorize these, but for the sake of letting beginners know about these, and it's good for review, so you always have to remember, this is how your psyche is working. If you know how your psyche is working, you lead a better life than you don't know what you're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's different me to do. I mean, that's not right. The ego attachment. In addition to perception, cognition, you have the ego attachment, which the Buddha said, the manas, the 7th consciousness. You always identify all these things with you. You have the ego in you. You were born with the ego. When you were a baby, you're already born with this. And what does it do? What does the manas do, the ego do? It personalizes everything. You personalize everything. You stigmatize everything. You've been wearing your tainted glasses to look at everything with your own opinion. That's the reason why we say we're all opinionated. We think that I'm not opinionated. I'm objective. how objective you are. If you're subjective, seeing things, how objective you are. So ego attachment. Modern psychology only talk about these up to the 7th, ego attachment. But the Buddha went forward to talk about one more thing, which is different from modern psychology. What's the difference between what the Buddha talked about and modern psychology talk about? Modern psychology only concerns this life. As far as time and space is concerned, modern psychology only concerned about the time now. But the Buddha said time dimension is not more than just now. We have a previous life. And if we have to roll into reincarnation, we have a future life. There's more. Time is not just of the present. If we just opinionated and say we only have the present, we didn't have any past, we didn't have any future, then you just tie yourself to the present, which is not logical, which is dangerous, Because if you say, I only have this life, I can do anything I want. As long as my senses feel happy, I can steal, I can kill, I can lie, I can do all sorts of things. As long as I'm happy at the present moment, I'm okay. Is that right? The Buddha said, no. You've got a past. You've got a future. You watch what you're doing. Everything takes to the future. You'll be suffering. You'll be going through retribution. And you are accountable for your past too. That's why you are suffering now. The fact that you are suffering now is because of what you've done in the past. What is past is already gone. Nothing you can do about it. But we can do something now for the future. Are you going to work on the present for a better future and a better now? Or you don't care? Everybody wants to be better, right? So the Buddha said there's another store consciousness, which is the 8th consciousness. And this consciousness store all the present and past karmic energy. You can't get away with anything bad you have done. That's like your disk drive in the computer. Your keyboard is out of order. Your monitor is out of order. But that disk drive there, you can always transfer it from all the memory, the chips in there, can always transfer from one disk drive to another. The hardware doesn't really matter. You just have to pull that out and transfer one life after life. You store the present and the past karmic energy. Your ego attachment personalize everything, and that's the arousal of your emotions. The ego attach to everything. That's why we suffer. When people look at these, people have different wisdom coming up. Some people would trigger something inside of them. Oh, I got to watch out. Some people just laughed at it. Some beginner would just laugh at this. Oh, we have the ego? Oh, everything, no. Oh, stores consciousness. But some really intelligent people, I got to watch it. If I know this, I got to be careful. I got to be careful in what I'm doing. The beginner would just laugh at it. The wiser would be careful about it. The enlightened one would adopt practice to improve it. You see the difference? The difference is in you, not in that. And most people would just laugh at it. Well, this is psychology, that's all. Take it very seriously. You know why we didn't take it seriously? We went through sufferings. What are these sufferings? You know, we'll point out these sufferings to you later. They are all related to the karma. So right now, you know how these mental afflictions come up, right? You have all these mental experiences that would breed all these things that comes up. Don't blame God for it. Don't blame your mom and dad for not giving you their estates. Don't blame anybody. Blame yourself. You are the master in faith. And then we said, remember we said about, let's get back to what we said in the beginning. I have done afflictions-related obstacles. Of course, there's a lot more to say about it. But let's get to karma-related obstacles. Actually, they're all related. What is karma? They're all associated with the effect of bad karma from past and present lives, obstructing an enlightenment. For example, poor health, sickness, family ties, career responsibilities. Why would karma-related obstacles stop you from good meditation, stop you from doing meditation? Some good examples. You're always busy with your job. How can you meditate? Your karma pull you to the busyness of your schedule that you have time to do your work 24 hours. You don't have time for 1 minute of meditation. You have time to go to parties. You have time to click onto your computer games. But you don't have time for 5 minutes of meditation. Why? The karma pull you down. You pull yourself down, your own karma. You could spend 1 hour karaoke and not half an hour of pursuit of enlightenment, pursuit of peacefulness inside of you, pursuit of mental attention, tranquility of mind. That's karma. And some people have poor health. They can't even meditate for 5 minutes. ADHD, children can't sit still. OCD, you close the door and you want to check it again and check it again until you break the knob. That's what we call OCD, right? You have all these psychological defects, everybody, that you don't have time for meditation. You're all caught up with your financial duties, caught up with your job, with your family burdens. Look, you have children who have OCD, autism. You can spend your whole life looking after them. That's karma related. You don't have time for meditation. You only have time to look after your family members, in which it's all karma. You owe them. They owe you. You repay them. They're repaying you. Your career responsibilities, your sickness. All these are karma that stop you from meditation. Even people who have been ordained as monks and nuns, you think they don't have karma-related obstacles? Sometimes when they were interacting with each other, they may have interaction problems, or they became sick, or they got caught in certain things. We're all caught in the web of our own, we say in the spider's web, we're all caught in the cocoon of the caterpillar. You're throwing out the thread to cocoon yourself. You're living in that cocoon. Who threw out this thread? You yourself. We did it ourselves. And the Buddha said, break the cocoon of life. Let's examine a little bit. We have a little bit of time today. Let's examine what is karma for the beginners. And for people who would like to do a review, what is actually karma? It's a Sanskrit word. Karma is an accumulation of actions of the body, speeches of the mouth, and thoughts of the mind. Everything about yourself. Nothing to do with externalities. You yourself did all these things. Have your actions been morally sound or immoral? What kind of actions you've been doing with your body? What can the body do? What kind of body is behavior, right? Body action is behavior. What kind of actions you do all the time? Many, many actions that the list is inexhaustible, the kind of actions that we do all the time. But if we want to summarize them, the bad side and the good side, killing, lying, and what? Sexual misconduct. We'll categorize those later. Speeches, you know what kind of speeches we do every day. Thoughts of the mind, that's even more subtle. Every thought The Buddha said, pay attention not just to the speech and the actions of the body. Pay attention to every thought. Don't let your thought go astray. Karma also refers to the natural law of cause and effect, where each thought, action, and speech of an individual, the cause, influences the future of that individual. That's the effect. There are three kinds of karma: wholesome karma, unwholesome karma, and neutral karma. The karma that you created with your body, your behavior, with your mouth, your speeches, with your mind, your thoughts, they have three natures. Wholesome karma will lead to wholesome effect, unwholesome karma will lead to unwholesome effect, and neutral karma would lead to neutral effect. No exception. But the maturity is different. So that's the reason why you say sometimes you complain. I know Mr. A, and he's been doing all these bad things. And how come his family is so happy? How come he's so rich? How come that guy is so handsome and so rich, and he's doing all kinds of bad things? That's not fair. But remember, what he is enjoying now is what he did in previous lives. The maturity came in this life. He would enjoy the maturity of this life's karma first, but whatever bad karmas that created in this life, the future life will be miserable. Because the maturity rate, the maturity for each karmic energy varies. Naturally varies. You plant an apple seed and a plum tree, a plum seed. Maturity, apples may be 2 years, plum will be 3 years. Corn, zucchini, they all mature in different dates, different time. How can you say, I got corn in here, I planted the same day, how come my zucchini don't come out and the corn come out? They have different maturities. That's nature. They have their own karma too. No one can get away. So you watch every thought. You only cultivate benevolent thought, kind thought, compassionate thought, not selfish thought, cruel thought, deceiving thought. Because all these thoughts will lead you into bad karma. Good thought will lead you into good karma. Neutral thought will have neutral karma. The suffering and happiness we experience are the results of our own actions, speeches, and thoughts reacting on ourselves. So nothing to do with God. You yourself, you have the God in you. You yourself determine everything. Our karmic energy has been accumulated from one life to the next as we continue to experience rebirth. So that is karma in a nutshell. There's a lot more to say about karma. And what is more important, karma is not just of the present life. Where do afflictions come from? From karma. Present life karma and past life karma. Present life karma, our mind craves and attaches to all externalities. We have been creating karma in the process of satisfying our desires through our behavior, speech, and thought. Karma disrupts our inner peace, induces emotion and suffering. And some people would blame karma. Don't blame karma. Who did the karma? Who created karma? You yourself. Don't blame yourself. Just improve yourself. Don't even feel guilty about it. Just improve on it. Guilt feeling is a devastating feeling. Just like when depression comes, you feel guilty about depression. Embrace it, live with it, and go through it and improve on it. Difficult to do, easy to say. Thoughts give rise to action and speeches. Action and speeches, if they are repeated all the time, becomes your habit. Habits repeated all the time becomes your personality. Personality leads to your destiny. Your destiny is in your hands. So if we go by that logic, If you want to change your destiny for the better, for improvement, how do you do it? Do you just pray to God and let God handle it? No. You have to change and purify your thoughts. You do it yourself. Starting from on tomorrow, every thought is benevolent. Every thought is kind. Every thought is non-selfish. Every thought is benefiting. You'll find things change. So, you want to change your destiny, change your thought. After your thought is changed, you will change your action and speeches. When all the actions and speeches are changed, you change your habits. You have thought of diligence, then you'll be a diligent person. You have a thought of laziness, you'll be a lazy person. Who do you want to choose to be? It's clear. But how many people really do it? Unclear. We don't know. Why? That's the reason why we say the Buddhist teaching is important. The Buddhist teaching is keeping on constantly reminding people, change your thoughts. People were struggling and say, I don't like the system. I don't like, some people say, I don't like dictatorship. I don't like totalitarian political system. Some people say, I don't like even democratic system. I don't like all systems. All systems are corrupted. They always say that. It may be true to a certain extent. You can only have the most ideal system if you have started from ideal thought. Don't think about creating good system. Think about changing, purifying your thought first. Every individual thought, microscopically, gives rise to a macro level of good system. So you don't force a system to go through. Change thoughts, not changing the system. You can only change the system by fighting, by wars, by violence. Is that what you should do? Change the system by non-violence. And the non-violence comes from the thought. Thought of compassion, thought of non-violence, thought of unselfishness. So don't think about changing the system. You think you'll vote, you just cast your vote and you can change the system? Because if the politicians have fallacious thoughts, selfish thoughts, cruel thoughts, you think the system is going to be good? So we should change our thoughts, not force onto a system. But of course, some systems are better than the others through understanding of peace, through understanding of compassion. And of course, most people say, of course, democratic system is better than a totalitarian system, even though a democratic system could be messy too. Some people criticize, you blame our totalitarian system, but how about the democratic system is still bad? Yes, but that's better. That's liberty. That's pursuit of happiness. It's also messy, right? You know why it's also messy? Because we haven't changed the basic thought. We haven't purified our thought to the utopia of thought, to the complete purity of thought. But we are working towards that route. So there's a better system, we all say, right? Because there's liberation. The Buddha is talking about liberation. But when the Buddha talks about liberation, it's not just liberation of a system, it's liberation from this world. This is a world of suffering. You want to liberate it from suffering, you have to get away from this karmic world. Because if you don't get away from karmic world, you'll roll into the next round of reincarnation, getting into the same system in the next round of 100 years of your life. So, remember, thoughts. What is meditation? Meditation is just about crossing your legs and just sitting quietly. Meditation is about purifying your thoughts to authentic thoughts, thoughts of purity, thoughts of peacefulness, thoughts of tranquility, thoughts of compassion. All this will come out when you have the right thought. So past life karma, innate karma accumulated from previous lives via rebirth. And we say, then how do we change past lives? I mean, whatever has happened. How can I change past life? The Buddha suggested some methods of changing it. Repentance. Some religions use it too. It's not just used by Buddhism. Compassion. So repentance. Performance of good deeds. Purification by practices of the Buddhist teaching, like Vinaya, precepts, observations of other precepts, abstain from killing, all that, etc., etc. Abstain from lying, abstain from sexual misconduct, and all that. And that's what we're going to go next into the slide of what actually created the karma. What kind of actions we've been doing to create bad karma and good karma. Let's examine it. Unwholesome karma and wholesome karma. If we can summarize karma, some karmic energy is inexhaustible because there's so much. But if we have to do some categories for the sake of talking about it, we say that is physical, verbal, and mental. Physical karma, verbal karma. Physical is from the body, behavior. Verbal is from the mouth, speeches. And mental is from the thought, from the mind. So we said body, mouth, and mind, right? It's the same as behavior, verbal, and mentality. Physically, what do we do? Killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. These are just the broad categories. Did we do any killing? Every day. People kill animals for you to eat. You've been indirectly supporting the slaughtering of animals on earth for the satisfaction of your taste buds. We kill millions of cows, pigs, millions of ducks and chickens cruelly every day for you to be put in the supermarket so that you can buy them. You can't stay away from meat every day. You can't stay away from meat. You always want to eat meat. You can stay away from fur. You want to kill the minks for the mink coat. You want to kill the seal for their fur. You've been supporting directly or indirectly killing. You even go hunting. You think you can get happiness from animals being hunted. You get personal delight when you kill animals for recreation. A lot of people do fishing. When you pull this fish wire, you think the fish is suffering with mouth hooked up with all the blood all over the place, and you pull the fish up, and you slice the fish into whatever you want to. You cook your fish, and you feel happy about it. You feel happy fishing. You don't know the fish is suffering, right? The whales, the sharks. As long as you're happy, you don't care about the animals suffering. Stealing. Did you steal? It involves a lot. Well, I've been talking about this. If you really want details about this, you can go into Google and say unwholesome karma. How is unwholesome karma created? People say, I didn't steal. You're stealing every day. You don't even know about it. You've been downloading every day. You don't even know about it. You've been stealing in every way. You've been signing false contract. You have been diluting your customers. You have been using dummy companies to create stock markets. You inflate your price to control stock market prices. Oh, everything is about stealing. Financial gimmicks, Ponzi plans. Financial people should tell you all that. Schemes, scams, scandals. Sexual misconduct, you know that more than we do. We are monks and nuns. So verbal, I don't want to go into details. Remember, most people know about this already. Verbal, we have lying, immoral languages, slandering, double-tongued speech, mental, engaging the mind in desires, engaging in thoughts of hatred, wrong views, selfish views. And how about wholesome karma? Abstinence from all these. Have you been abstained from killing? Abandon fishing. Don't kill animals for your own pleasure. Abandon hunting. Don't support killing mink for the fur, seal for the fur. You know how the seals get slaughtered in the Arctic? Abstinence from lying, immoral languages, abstinence from slandering, double-tonguing, abstinence from engaging the mind in desires and all that. All these 10, they look simple. Some people say, what is the foundation of morality? And what is foundation of the Buddhist teaching? In the ancient days, a monk suggested, these are the foundations. And then the guy, after listening to it, said, oh, this is easy to do. But then the monk said, it may be understood by a 10-year-old child, but when you're up to 100 years old, you haven't performed these things well. A 10-year-old child may understand, but a 100-year-old guy have committed all these errors in their life, and they didn't even know about it. Okay, these are the karmic energy. So we say, what does these afflictions come from? And we've been talking about karmic-related obstacles, right? All these, if you're doing killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, you think you can do a good meditation? Said if you are killing all the time, stealing all the time, sexual misconduct all the time, immoral language, slandering, you're doing all this, you think you can do a good meditation? Remember what we've been talking about? We're seeing obstacles to meditation. So we have already talked about all these afflictions internally generated from ourselves to stop us from good meditation. So if you want to do a good meditation, you have to stop your emotions, your depressions, your guilt, your arrogance, your jealousy, your hatred. Internally, you have to stop those. You have to jump over those to have good meditation. Meditation is just not about just crossing your legs and just sit there. Have you overcome all these emotions, mental afflictions? And people tell you, I'm an experienced meditator, I've done well in meditation, but you ask yourself, do you still have all this jealousy, hatred, egoism, all these things? If I have these things, I haven't achieved much in meditation. I'm just window dressing my meditation. I just look, I'm meditating. But internally, I still have that. I still have all the garbage tank of mental garbage in me. What is awakening? Awakening is open up your garbage tank door and let out all this garbage. Or you just enclose your garbage and still, I'm a meditator. But all this garbage, I'm hiding this garbage beside me, inside of me. When you're window dressing, you're window dressing yourself as a meditator, but you're not doing it right. So you're always asking for who is a better teacher? I'm looking for teacher. You are your own teacher. You just open your door and clean up the garbage and don't throw in any more of those garbages anymore. The teacher is within, not externally. It doesn't matter how many teachers outside. If you don't clean it up yourself, you think the teacher can clean it for you? If a good teacher could clean up your own garbage, then all the students' garbage have already been cleaned. Even the Buddha cannot clean your garbage. He can only tell you how to open those doors, how to clean it, what kind of detergent, what broom to use, how to use them. So don't look for a teacher anymore. You are your own teacher. Stop all these. Stop killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, immoral language, slandering, desires, thoughts of hatred. And if they come up, what happens if they come up? Embrace them. Don't hate them. Live with it. Go through it. Difficult. It itself is an obstacle. And some people call it Kundalini awakening. In the process, you're really suffering because all this, when you open the garbage door, it all stinks. You are overwhelmed by the garbage. All these things come to the surface. You have depression when you're meditating, when you're awakening, when you open this garbage door, all these come up multifold to the surface. Makes you more miserable. But you were able to embrace it, to live with it. Don't resist it. Let it go by. Let it come out. Let it come out. So you think the meditation is easy? Meditation is opening the garbage door and let them out. I've been looking for a teacher for 30 years. And sure, some give good suggestions, but the actual final, ultimate teacher is within me. I have enough information. I put all this information on the shelves, and on my computer. And every now and then I just look at them, and that's it. And then I close them, and next time I open it again and close them. I never practiced it. I only read them. That's words wisdom, not practice wisdom. All right? So we say, and then we say, okay, we're trying everything to overcome these things. We want to do this. We want to be better. But how come I still suffer? These are the sufferings that we can't escape. In the Lotus Sutra, Sakyamuni Buddha said, the triple world of samsara are full of turmoil, like a burning house, replete with multitude of sufferings. Sufferings of birth, aging, sickness, death, suffering of being departed from beloved ones. Suffering arises when your relatives, your mom and dad passed away and your beloved one passed away, even your children, your babies. And suffering arises from not getting what one wants. And suffering arises from interaction with the five skandhas, which we have to understand what the five skandhas are. Most mental disorders emanate from or are related to these sufferings. The magnitude of emotions varies from person to person because of differences in their own karma, physiologically and psychologically. So everybody's awakening is different, everybody's suffering is different, everybody's destiny is different. And talking about, people say, what do you mean by suffering of birth? Suffering of birth? Someone is being born, no, it's happy, right? Someone is being born, it's happy. So what suffering is there? There are many casualties and many suffering related to birth. Even related to prior to birth. You know how many babies were killed in abortion? How many ladies aborted their own babies? Because of their own mischief or whatever they do, I don't know. And in one country, from what I got, the information I got, over 30 years, they killed millions of babies. Forced abortion, millions of babies. And if you look at, if you research into internet, every year in one country, in North America, in one country, more than 1.5 million of babies were killed in abortion. Casualties at birth. How can mothers kill their own babies? What happened? And sometimes if you poison the babies in before they were born, you only also give rise to death of the mom. Cesarean section. Not every cesarean section is successful, particularly in the old days. So birth really are related to a lot of casualties. And particularly in countries where they put emphasis on male, they like boys and they don't like girls, they drown the girls, baby girls. It's terrible. You know how humans inflict pain and suffering and death for other humans? Suffering of birth. This is not a good world to live in. We try to be happy. We try to like this. Our attitude should not be negative. But when we see these negative facts, that make us more positive in saying, I'm going to transcend this world of unhappiness. I never give up because I see the negative things. You know why the Buddha became ordained as a monk? Why did the Buddha abandon his throne to, all his luxuries, to go into the forest for meditation and try to find a way to transcend life and death? Because he knew that the only way to get away from all these is to transcend all these. You don't have to hate all these. You don't hate birth, hate aging, hate sickness, hate death. There are facts in life that you cannot hate. You think by hating them, they can get away? You just embrace them and go beyond them. How to do it? It's in the Buddha's teaching since 2,600 years ago. Now you have come to a realization. You want to know something about them. The intelligence, the wisdom alarm started alarming you. You started to investigate and find out more about it. Because of all these negative things, you find out more about how positive you can be. You're not being negative in the negative world. You're even more positive living in a negative world. But you have to recognize these negative things. Otherwise, how can you be positive? You don't hate these negative things, but you have to identify them, transcend them. That's what the Buddhist teaching is all about. Okay, so I have talked about karma-related obstacles. If you have to die, you only have one life to do meditation. If you are aging, if you get old, you cannot meditate. If you are sick, you cannot meditate. When you die, how can you meditate? When you are suffering from the grief-stricken emotion of people passing away for a month, for a year, how can you do meditation? If you always have insatiable desires, number 7, how can you do meditation? So all these obstacles to the meditation. So meditation is just sit down and become happy. No. All these are obstacles stopping us from doing good meditation, stopping us from being enlightened. We need to transcend these. Oh, let's come to the last one. I don't want to linger on. What is retribution obstacles? Retribution. Remember, afflictions-related obstacle and karma-related obstacles deal with individualistic obstacles for the individual because you have the afflictions, you have the karma. That's on a micro level. If we look at it from a micro level, but when we look at anything, we have to look at the macro level too. The collective level. We were born in this world that very difficult to get enlightened. Where are we? We are in the 6 paths of reincarnation. Remember, the whole world is in 3 levels right now of this plane of existence. The Kama Dhatu, world with materiality and desire. A Rupa Dhatu, world with materiality only. And a Rupa Dhatu, world without materiality, only consciousness left. And their degree of happiness is increasing as they go up to higher level. We are, what level are we in? We are in the lower level. We are in the humans level. We're not in the heavens level. But the heavens level will also they're not enlightened yet. They only have happiness. But they're not the ultimate way to go. They are heaven. People live in heaven, but they still are in paths of reincarnations because they're attaching to the happiness. We are here, humans level. So we're in the human levels, we have only a limited time for meditation. You only have 100 years for meditation, right? Out of this 100 years, when you were born, up to 10 years old, how can you meditate? From 10 to 20 years old, you were at school, you were doing all this work, and you were at university. And after you graduate from university, you form a family, you have house, you have wife, you have husband, you start to look for a job, and then you have kids. You have to be responsible for a father, as a mother. Oh, you have to have a family. All your time is spent in your family, in your wife. How can you have any time for enlightenment? That is your retribution. People in heaven, they enjoy millions of years of longevity. They may be able to do meditation, but then if they don't have any suffering, they don't want to meditate too. You only would want to walk away from this world when you have suffering. The good thing about suffering is it's an incentive for you to transcend it. Don't hate suffering. Because we are going through suffering, we want to transcend it. People in heaven, they don't have any suffering. They're not looking for enlightenment. They just enjoy it. So sometimes it's good if you are suffering. Don't blame yourself for being born in a poor family. Don't blame yourself for I couldn't get a job, and I tried my best and you couldn't get a job. You know suffering. Because you know suffering, you know that you want to get away from suffering. So the bad stuff can turn into something good. And the good stuff can turn into something bad because you attach to the good stuff. So retribution is the macro level that you are being born into this world that is not perfect. Our time and space is not perfect. Our time is not perfect for us. We have the past, the present, and the future. What is the past? The time when you were born as a baby is the past. What is the future? The time when you die is the future, right? No exception. What is your future? Your future is you've got a promotion next year. That's your future. Let's consider the macro level. Your future is death. Not negative. It's a fact, right? Your future is not longevity. Your future is death. So you have a past, which is being born. You have a future that is death. And in between you have aging. When you're aging, how can you meditate? You can't even cross your legs. So you have birth, death, and aging. And in between you have sickness. You have all these circumstances that work against you in your meditation and your enlightenment and your pursuit of wisdom. That's your retribution because you were being born in here. You're not in the Buddha's level. You're not in the Arahat level. When you're in the Arahat level, you are out from samsara. You're out from life and death. You don't have the retribution anymore. You don't have the retribution of life and death anymore. But we have the retribution of life and death. You got to come back again. If you're not enlightened in this life, you got to come back again as a Joe Blow. In this life, you are John. In the next life, you could be William. Rolling in the path of reincarnation, going through life and death all the time. You're not out. You're not out from jail. We're all serving a jail sentence. We may not even know about it. The jail sentence of existence. We're in a dream of existence. We're living in a delusion of existence. This jail would not jail us. It's a delusion. This jail is just a delusion. It will not jail us permanently. This jail is impermanent. You want to get out from this jail. But you have to know how to get out from this jail. The Buddha showed us the map. The Buddha opens the window and says, here's the map for you. Slide through the bars. Here's a map for you. Open this map and you can get out. You got this map, you don't even read it. The Buddha has been knocking at the door and say, this is the map to get out. But you haven't tried. So we're always in this jail. And what is more, how many people really open the door and listening to the lock of the door and take that map? There are a lot of people behind. They don't even know they're in jail. They think that being in prison is a fact of life. They never enjoy liberty. They have no vision of liberty. Only those who have a vision. Oh, why am I born? Only those who realize the delusion of existence will know how to get out. There are people, the animals behind. Some are animals, some are people. A dog, a cat, they never question existence. Would a cat say, why would it exist? Why do I have to go through a cat's life? Would a cat do that? Only humans know the value of existence. A dog will only bark when a stranger comes in and bark again when it's hungry. He would not value existence. Find out more about existence. And right now I want to find out more about what kind of food we have in the cafeteria today. And we name that, we've dressed it as a window, we say eating meditation. So we're going through eating meditation now. Let us continue with the topic of how to meditate. And just as a regurgitation, meditation is in two parts: calming down or stabilization, introspection or contemplation. Stabilization is in three parts: counting, following, and stabilization itself. That is, counting, following would lead to stabilization or calming down the mind and relax the body. And then there is introspection. Introspection is to introspect, contemplate within. So it includes introspection, turning, and purification. These laid out the format of the whole picture of meditation. In one slide, it lays out a picture. And then we say, okay, how do we prepare for it? What is the actual process involved? How do we do it? So the actual process involved, we say, of course, the sixth aspect, counting, following, is the preparatory part. Prepare for it, preparation. Stabilization, introspection, and turning is the actual cultivation of it. And then there must be realization according to cause and effect. Preparation, cultivation is the cause. Realization is the effect. In everything, according to the concept of conditionality, cause with conditions leads to effect. So preparation, cultivation, and realization. This is the process itself. And of course, even before preparation, there is something that we already talk about, and we call it the prerequisites of meditation. It's just like when you go to university, you have to have certain admissions requirements. There are certain prerequisites that you have to fulfill in order to be a registered student. If you don't have those prerequisites, you are probably just like a sit-in student. There's a difference between a sit-in student and a serious registered student, right? A sit-in student, he doesn't have to go through examination. He doesn't have to buy a textbook. He doesn't have to attend a lecture. It's different. A sit-in and a registered student is different. What are these prerequisites? Which we need to mention some of these prerequisites, right? We said we have at least 5 prerequisites. The first one is observance. That is before preparation, right? Prerequisites before even prepare yourself. You need these requirements in order to sit, in order to meditate. What are these requirements? First one, observance of moral precepts. In other words, you have to have a high moral standard to qualify yourself for meditation. If you are involved always in killing, lying, sexual misconduct, cursing, foul languages, greediness, hatred, jealousy, you better polish those up before you're required, before you sit in the meditation. You have to have very basic. You have to be a good person first. Observance of moral standard or moral precepts. We don't want to go into details, of course. Moral precepts, that's a lot. Second is, you go to a habitat that is quiet and peaceful, a venue, a location. You can sit, meditate in the middle of a road, a cross-section of a road, where cars are always going by. You can meditate in a party. You can meditate in a theater house, in a casino, so to speak. So you have to go to a habitat that is peaceful and quiet. Not easy. Not easy. Even at home sometimes, depends on how many family members you have. If you're all by yourself, it may be easier. But if you're all by yourself, when you go home, what do? You click onto your TV, you click onto your WhatsApp, your iPhone. It's not peaceful at all. The third prerequisite is stop all other activities that are not associated with the meditation. So if you are in meditation, you can. I want to do a yoga practice. I want to do a qigong. I want to do a kung fu. I want to do a calligraphy. I want to go do, so to speak, they beautify the name. You're involved with flower Zen, tea Zen, walking Zen. Oh, all kinds of Zen that you attach a word to. Is that meditation? Or even party Zen, music Zen, lots of Zen. Okay, so you have to stop other activities and just concentrate in meditation. Number four, simple food and living. Simple food, simple living. Regulate your good habits. You don't go to sleep at 3 o'clock playing your computer games until 3 o'clock in the morning and then get up at 10, 12 o'clock and then you do meditation. You're upsetting day and night. You're disrupting day and night. Your system synchronized with the natural phenomena of day and night. Don't turn your day into a night and night into a day. Don't turn your body that should have been living in the daytime, you're living in the nighttime, and nighttime in the daytime. Okay. Number 5, accessibility to genuine teacher or teaching. You got to have a genuine, authentic teacher or genuine, authentic teachings, whatever. Sometimes you may not have a teacher, but at least you have to expose yourself to the right, authentic teaching. So don't go to a teaching that is not appropriate, to a teaching that is not taught by the Buddha, that is something else. So these are the 5 prerequisites. And I hope you do have those prerequisites. Okay? So this is just a repeat and a regurgitation. And last time, 3 lectures ago, we were talking about turning. And some of the devotees in here, 1 or 2 devotees in here expressed to me that turning is not easy to understand. As particularly, you know what is turning? Turning is when you are doing counting, following, stabilization, introspection, you are using the subjective mind, introspecting with concepts, and introspect an object. Concepts are object. In other words, you are using sunyata, emptiness concept. You are using paticca samuppada concept. You are using impermanence concept. You are using you want to purify your mind concept. You're using all kinds of concepts. You're using your breath, which is the external object. You're contemplating also on the flow of the qi or the flow of the breath. All these, your subjective, your mind is using this to introspect. But turning is something different. You want to get a question, not just query about the object, not just introspecting the object. You want to introspect your own mind. I want to turn back to my mind and say, are you right? Is my mind right? Is the subject right? Because you are using the subjective mind to introspect objective concepts, objective things. Now you want to do it a little bit more detail. You want to get back to the source of the thinking. What is my thinking? How does a thought arise? How does my mind work? So there is turning back to the mind, turning back to the subjective mind. You are returning to the direction of the origin of introspection. Where does this mind arise, this thought arise? One should return to the source. Because we have been very subjective, using the mind. Now you want to analyze not only the object, you want to investigate only the object. You want to investigate your own mind, reflecting your own mind. That is what we mean by turning. And I remember one or two devotees told me that it's not easy to understand turning. So I would like to use the next half an hour to take a look at turning again, just to understand it properly. It's not easy to understand because you're analyzing your own mind. You're analyzing every thought that comes up from your mind. How does it arise? Where is your mind? What is the origin of this mind? So we say, just to repeat last time, we say the mind that engages, we're now going back to 3-4 lectures ago where we analyzed turning. We want to turn it back again now. There's another turning. We're turning back to a few lectures ago on how we analyze our mind. So the cultivation of turning or returning. Sometimes I use the word returning to the subject to see, are you right? Your mind, Mr. Mind, you are using all these concepts to investigate, to analyze, what is this mind? Where does this mind come from? We say, the mind that engages in introspection, from what does it arise? How does this thought arise? We say there are two probabilities. One, generated by introspection thought, that is to say, the case that the introspection thought arose from a mind involved in the introspection. Number two, generated by something other than the introspection thought. That is to say, the case that the introspection thought arose from a mind not involved in introspection. So there's two probabilities. There's two possibilities. If you study logic and study probabilities, we use the word probabilities, otherwise possibility is the same thing. So it's either, and number one is either from itself or it comes from other. In other words, this thought comes from itself or from other, right? The two probabilities, it's either from yourself or from other. And remember, we have a conclusion after analyzing all these. I'm just picking up the summary, the conclusion. After analyzing, is it from a mind involved in introspection or from a mind not involved in introspection? We have done it in detail, and our conclusion is none of the above are true. This mind that engages in introspection does not arise in any situation at all. The introspective mind was originally unproduced. There is no mind to be found. Of course, the prerequisite is this mind must be a healthy mind, must be the right mind. We already have that subject investigated. Assuming your mind is normal, it's on the right track still, what is this thought? And our conclusion is this mind, there's no existence of a thought, which links up to there is no existence of our body even. There's no existence of this I. Now this is a paradox. And then I said in this session, we're going to explain it in a little bit more detail and see if we can really understand it in a proper limelight, in a proper light. And you really have to think about it with a little bit of logic to understand it. And when something is produced, when a thing, we say a thing is to be produced, in how many ways a thing is produced? Let's put aside about this thought. Everything in the universe, when something is produced, in what ways they are produced? In what way the world is produced, is created? In what way your body is created? In what way is this created? In what way is everything created? How many ways are there for the creation of something or thing? Let's analyze that. And when we analyze that, we have to analyze according to the Buddha's exposition. Not according to my exposition, according to what the Buddha said. What did the Buddha say about existence? About if anything is to be created, anything is to be produced or comes into being, what are the ways that it comes into being? How does our body come into being? How does a thought come into being? How does anything at all, a molecule, comes into being? The Buddha said, comes in 4 ways. And Nagarjuna, a later philosopher, explained it in more detail according to what the Buddha said he expounded it in Madhyamaka Sastra. Now if you don't understand what I talk about, you can Google it and say, Madhyamaka Sastra. What does it mean? Madhyamaka Sastra is a full analysis of how is this world created? How is anything created? Going back to the source. How is this thought created? But for half an hour, let's bring out Madhyamaka Sastra. It says, everything is not created from self, not from other, not from both, and not from neither. So nothing exists. If something is to come into being, like created or whatever, or to be produced, such becoming, such production must come from 4 ways. All these 4 ways exhaust all possibilities. It includes all the possibilities. Each one of these alternatives includes all possibilities. It's either from a self, from itself, or from other than itself, or from a combination of self and other, or from nothing. From nothing, right? These are the 4 alternatives that exhaust all possibilities. Nagarjuna expounded that all these possibilities are not possible, so there's no existence. It's only a false, fictitious, impermanent existence, but you hang on to it, attach to it as, yes, it is there, yes, it exists, yes, there's a man, yes, there's a woman, yes, there is fame, reputation, money, greediness, hatred, suffering, not suffering, happiness. We attach to an existence that is not existing. Many high-level and enlightened monks said, we don't exist, and we don't believe it. What do you mean by I don't exist? Am I existing now? How come you say I'm not existing? They laughed at it. It is very strange, quote unquote, that you are not laughing at it. What are you talking about? You exist and you say you're not existing? We're living in a dream of existence? We used to have a Theravada, very high level enlightened monk, Bante Punaji says, we don't exist. We're only living in a dream of existence. But we hang on to everything. We're attached to everything. We're attached to family, we're attached to money, fame, we're attached to everything because we think that everything exists. But actually, they don't exist. But how? We have to analyze it, right? What do you mean by if anything has to be existed, it existed in four ways. It's from itself, or other, or a combination of one and two, or from nothing at all. No reason, just exist. Let's analyze the first one. What do we mean by from self? Now, we have to involve a little bit of logical thinking. In modern psychology, in modern logic, we said inference. I-N-F-E-R-E-N-C-E, inference, or by postulation, or by judgment, or by reasoning, whatever term you want to use it. We have to use reasoning. But then how reasonable is our reasoning? Well, that we have to talk about later in other lectures about the authenticity of our postulation, our inference, of our reasoning. But assuming that we're reasoning it with logic. So what do we mean by something is to come into being from self? And then we say, it is not true that it comes from itself. We say, anything that is to be produced, is to be created, is to come into being from itself. Is it right? From itself. If a thing is to be produced from itself, then it's not logical. Why? Because its production will be endless. So if this can produce itself, then the whole world will be full of itself and will be endless. But that is not right. How can anything that without other causes, without any reason, without any help, anything at all, it all exists by itself? It all created by itself? It's not possible. Nothing can create itself by itself. Otherwise, it would be endless. So it is not right. It produced itself cannot be right logically. Right? It cannot be produced by itself. It has to be, there must be reasons for it, there must be help, conditions, there must be causes, etc., etc. How can it just, boom, it produce itself? If it produced itself, then how many times? 1 time? 2 times? 3 times? 4 times? If it can produce itself, the whole universe will be all by itself, will be all full of itself. So logically speaking, it cannot produce by itself. Then you say, well, it produced by itself with many helps, with many conditions, then it's not by itself. Then it means produced with the help of many other conditions. And there will be others, right? But to say, if it doesn't produce by itself, it must be produced to be produced from other than itself. A thing to be produced from something other is again illogical, not logical. Because if it is not yet produced, then other cannot be established. Because it's to be produced only when I'm produced, I I have itself, then I call other, right? But if I haven't been produced, we're talking about production, producing it, created it. If I haven't been created, and then how can there be an other that refers to self? You understand what I mean? Think about it. Only when a thing has already existed, then there is an other. We call it other. We're talking about, I don't exist, but I exist because of others. How can other exist if I haven't really exist? You can only call it, you can only call other if you have a self. So if you don't even have a self, how can you have other? Plus, the concept of other, to that other, that is and itself. And if we say and itself cannot be true, then how can other be true? You understand what I mean? Now, if you don't understand, it does not really matter. Let us use some symbols to explain it, to help our understanding in a later. Maybe I can use the symbol now just to explain it. The four negations, katuskoti. We say not P, right? And then not P. We say not P is self, and not P is other, right? If it is not P, if it is not P, we still have considered other conditions. I just want to show you the symbolic meaning of this. Well, we haven't come to 3 and 4, but just the first one, P itself, not P is not, it's other, right? Not itself. So it is not P and not P. So how come you say that? We already have said the first one is not itself, and then we say it's not other. Because self other only happen when there is a self. But we've already proven that it's not self. How can other exist? If there is an other, then the thing has already existed. There is no need to be produced. If there is other, there's no need to come into being. Because if there is other already established, then you already have a self. Then you call other. This is to prove it by symbol. But if you really want to get a full exposition of this, you have to read Nagarjuna's Madhyamaka Sastra. But this is just for the purpose of understanding it. You don't really have to go into the deep logical thinking of it if you believe it. If this is just for people who say no, I don't follow what you mean. I don't agree. Then you go through the logic. Only for people say I don't believe in what the Buddha was talking about. Is there any logical reasoning? Then you go through this. If you say I believe in the Buddha, why do you need to go through this? You understand what I mean? I already believe in it. Why do I have to pull my hair to understand it? Rack my brain to understand. Some people are like that. I want to understand it. I don't understand it. I pull my hair. I'm not happy. You don't have to. It's only for those who question the Buddha. Then you better pull your hair and try to understand this. But if you're not questioning the Buddha, why do you have to go deep into it? If I already believe in the history, Canadian history, that about 20 years ago, Pierre Trudeau was the Prime Minister, I believe it. Do I really have to dig into the library and dig out all these history books to find out? Only for those who don't believe that 20 years ago, or how many years ago, that Pierre Trudeau was the Prime Minister. For those who don't believe it, you better dig into the history of it. I'm only pointing this out for people who don't believe in it. So don't pull your hair to try to investigate. And I abandoned my meditation. I want to investigate. Some people are like that. They are a registered student all their life. They're only looking for YouTube, for videos and books, trying to understand this, and he's not doing a proper meditation. If you believe in it, you don't have to investigate into it, right? Only for those who are so obstinate that they don't believe in it. Then you have to, pull my hair into it and I don't understand, and you hang on to the misunderstanding and you don't feel happy about it. To me, I just dropped this because I believe in what the Buddha was talking about. I feel it. I'm happy with it. Why do I have to investigate into this? Some people say, if you don't investigate in it, you don't understand it properly. Not necessarily. If I have to investigate every scientific detail of the universe, I'll go crazy. I don't want to go crazy. This is just for people, quote unquote, who gets crazy. And they want to investigate more into it. Then some people say, if it is not from self and not from other, I know it's a combination of self and other. It's a combination of yourself, and you're dependent on all these causes and conditions, right? It's a combination of one and two. It must be right. Then Nagarjuna's exposition to deny it is, a thing to be produced from self and other is not logical. Only when self and other exists, then the combination of both exists. If 1 and 2 is faulty, how can the combination of 1 and 2 be true? I can give it an analogy, but that may not be a good analogy. If self is blind and 2 is blind, how can the combination of blind be not blind? You see what I mean? If both are faulty, how can the combination of both faulty expositions be true? So a thing to be produced from self and other is not logical. Only when self and other exists, then the combination of both exists. But this carries the fault mentioned in both 1 and 2 earlier. So production from both is not acceptable. Right? Not acceptable. So number 3 is not acceptable, is not logical. And then some people say, if it's not 1, if it's not 2, if it's not 3, it must be from nothing. From no reason they exist. From nothing. Because self, other, and both almost exhaust all possibilities, and there's one more possibility left. For no reason, for no causes, no condition, boom, it booms into being. And then Nagarjuna in the Madhyamaka Sastra says, a thing to be produced without a cause is not logical, because it violates the truth of conditionality. If such is the case, the production will be endless. If from nothingness it exists and exists and exists in the whole world, if everything exists endlessly, and it's not possible. So these are the 4 reasons, the Madhyamaka Sastra, to prove that there's no existence. Existence is only fictitious. But we firmly believe we exist. That's our problem. We think our greediness exists. Our struggle for... We don't have an existence, but we struggle for existence. That's our problem. We struggle to exist. And we define this existence as what? Having a family, getting a girlfriend, getting a boyfriend, getting a fame, reputation, a good car, a good house, operating a business that brought in a lot of money, and I have many things. We falsely, erroneously recognize existence as something that we cling to, we're attached to. That's why we're in suffering. That's why we're in trouble. That's what Nagarjuna pointed out that why do we attach to existence which does not exist? And in the process of this attachment, we are committing a lot of karmic energy that always pull us in our struggle for existence. So everybody understands what is this all about now? Okay, let's get back to symbolic logic. P is self, for example. Not P is not from itself. Not P, not from itself is other. Not from itself is other. It's not other. And then both P and not P is not the case. We already have proven it logically. And then neither P nor not P is not true either. That exhausts all possibilities. By symbolic logic, therefore nothing is produced. There is no existence. We are only living in the dream of existence. You and I. Not only are we dreaming at night, we're dreaming at daytime. We're daydreaming. We think we exist, but we don't. These are the four negations, katiskoti. There are also the four negatives. There's also the four positives too. The four positives are also not true, but that's something else that we have to talk about later. I have it laid out for you. If you really want to think about it, think about it. And my translation may not be 100% right, so I translated from Chinese, but I tried to be as accurate as possible. So don't blame me for the wrong translation. Translation is difficult. And even the Chinese translation is from the Sanskrit. So I've done my homework. I'm not just talking about emptiness. I've done my homework. So what is the conclusion of turning? Turning is something that is quite abstruse. It's not easy to say, not easy to understand, because we are, at this process, we are going to get back to the source. Our thought is fictitious. Our thought does not arise. It arises conditions only. And of course, some thoughts are authentic and right. Some thoughts are not authentic and fictitious and leading to bad karmic energy. Some thought leads to wholesome energy, good energy. Good thoughts. Thoughts of compassion, thought of loving kindness, thought of morality. Those are wholesome thoughts. Thought of cruelty, greediness, hatred, depression, anxiety, fear, jealousy, hatred, anger, you name them. Those are unwholesome thoughts. Unwholesome thoughts will lead to unwholesome outcome. Wholesome thought will lead to wholesome outcome. That is what works in this universe of karmic energy. And because of what we have done, we are rowing in life and death, bury ourselves in the struggle for existence. The time when you know that existence is not true, because you're not hanging to existence, you will start to what? To purify yourself of all this karmic energy. You hang on to existence because you're not purified. We hang on to fame. What do we hang on actually? What does our mind hang on? Let's talk about a little bit more about what we hang on. The 8 vicissitudes of life. Astalokidama. We hang on to gain and loss, fame and ill fame, praise and blame, pleasure and pain. We hang on to the good. We hang on to things we like. We hang on to things we don't like. We're attached to them, and we don't have time for this in this session. Maybe we'll go on to the 8 vicissitudes of life in the next session. In our existence, we hang on to this. We think we exist. It's a chain effect. we think we exist, we struggle for does this exist, and in the struggle for existence, we hang on to what? Gains. We hang on to gains. We hang on to fame. We hang on to praise. We hang on to pleasure. Because we think we exist. Because of this hanging on, clinging, attachment, we create bad karmic energy that pull us down in life and death. The Buddha said, don't hang on to these. But we don't believe it. The Buddha said, because you don't exist. Because we don't exist. We don't exist. We exist in this world, but we only exist fictitiously for a temporary time, for a short period. In the world of changeability, we have to transcend this kind of existence. We have to transcend this kind of existence that is creating a lot of bad karmic energy and lead us into suffering. How do we get away from this? We'll go into next time.